Chapter 514. What a terrifying aura! Why haven't I seen him so ferocious before? The hearts of the spectators trembled. Was this a dream? When did Ma San become so powerful? Zhao Wei and the giant scorpion, who had experienced it personally, were scared out of their wits. They ran away without looking back. Too powerful. Such combat strength was enough to defeat everyone below the War Master level. I didn't want to kill you, but you're too insensible. Qin Feiyong's face was indifferent. An invisible force surged like a giant beast with its mouth wide open and fangs, drowning the two men in the beast. Ah! Roar! Screams suddenly resounded through the sky. Whether it was Zhao Wei or the giant scorpion, they were all covered in blood. Their eyes were full of fear and their hearts were shrouded in deep despair. Zhao Wei shouted pleadingly, "I don't want the fruit anymore. Please don't kill me. I don't want it either." The man in white, Liang Cheng, also hurriedly shouted, "Spineless humans, this emperor swears to die unyielding." The giant scorpion looked at the two of them in disdain and suddenly turned to Qin Feiyong, roaring, "Human, even if I die, I will make you pay. Is that so?" Qin Feiyong smiled coldly and stepped toward the giant scorpion. The giant scorpion was not afraid at all and faced Qin Feiyong head-on. Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng fled without looking back. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The giant scorpion that was charging towards Qin Feiyong suddenly turned around and caught up to Zhao Wei in the blink of an eye. It opened its bloody mouth, revealing its eerie white fangs that were more than a meter long. It actually bit off their heads in one bite. Before they could figure out the situation, Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng died. This change not only caught Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng by surprise, but also stunned Qin Feiyong and Fatso. Needless to say, the crowd in the surroundings were all dumbstruck and filled with shock. Wasn't this giant scorpion very unyielding? It even despised Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng? Why did it suddenly change sides and kill Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng? "Human, wash your neck clean for me. I will kill you sooner or later." After the giant scorpion attacked Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng, it immediately turned and fled, leaving behind a fierce voice that echoed between heaven and earth for a long time. When Qin Feiyong reacted, he could only see the giant scorpion's shadow in the sky. Fatso was stunned for a long time before he came back to his senses. He cursed. "This guy is so cunning." Qin Feiyong also shook his head and Liang Cheng in the previous situation. The giant scorpion and Liang Cheng. The giant scorpion and Liang Cheng and Liang Cheng and Liang Cheng. The giant scorpion must have seen through this, so it pretended to want to fight him to the death. In reality, it was playing a trick to make Zhao and Wei lower their guard. The two of them were extremely stupid. They only cared about running for their lives and completely ignored this terrifying beast. In the end, he was killed by the giant scorpion. Simultaneously, in the face of this scene, Qin Feiyong would definitely be stunned, and the giant scorpion would take the opportunity to slip away. Not only could it kill Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng, but it could also take the opportunity to escape. It was really killing two birds with one stone. Now, who dared to say that the beast was stupid? When it came to playing tricks, it was even better than those scheming old foxes. At this moment, this place was silent. Dead. Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng are both elites of the inner palace, and they were killed just like that? Are Ma San and Zhang Lu borrowing courage from the heavens? Everyone lowered their heads and looked at the two headless corpses that were falling downwards. Their hearts were filled with shock. Cough cough. Actually, I didn't really want to kill them. I just wanted to scare them. But I didn't expect that they would be killed by the giant scorpion. To be honest, I'm also a victim in this matter. Everyone, you have to testify for me. Qin Feiyong coughed dryly and said somewhat shyly. Victim? Everyone looked at each other. This bastard, he actually pretended to be innocent? He was too shameless. One of the burly men said, Ma San, although they weren't killed by you, they died because of you. We can't cover for you. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, You can't be like this. We're all from the same sect. We should help each other if we can, right? You still know that we're from the same sect? When you attacked Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng just now, why didn't you care about your relationship with them? Everyone stared at him with righteous indignation. Fatso said angrily, Are you blind? Didn't you see that they attacked first? Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and said, Yes, I can't just stand there and let them kill me, right? There were dozens of people around, but no one spoke. They were all speechless. Whether you want to testify for me or not depends on your mood. Goodbye. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, turned around with Fatso, and continued to rush into the depths. Is this the attitude of asking for help? Bastard, it's simple and arrogant. The crowd was furious. The man and woman who were arrogant by the river were mixed in the crowd, looking at the backs of Qin Feiyong and Liang Cheng. Their eyes flashed with cold light. The man rolled his eyes and instigated. Everyone quickly spread the news. We must make this arrogant bastard pay the price. The woman nodded and said coldly, killing fellow disciples and robbing treasures. This is an unforgivable crime. Yes. Everyone quickly spread the news. In an instant, everyone took out the image crystal. Immediately, the news spread wildly in the mountain range. What? Ma San not only killed Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng, but also stole some mysterious fruit. He seems to be a 2-star combat emperor. How can he have this ability? The first reaction of those who received the news was disbelief. They thought that someone was playing a prank. But soon, the news was confirmed. Thus, everyone began to form groups in search for Qin Feiyong and Li Yunhong all over the mountain. On the peak of a mountain, Qin Feiyong stood behind a bush and scanned the mountain below. His eyes were filled with thoughts. Where was this 4th-grade alchemy fire hidden? Fatty, on the other hand, was playing with the 3 heart protector fruits. Boss, how much do you think this thing can be sold for after being refined into a pill? As he spoke, his eyes shone brightly. How much do you think it can be sold for with such a miraculous effect of repairing the heart? Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at him. This was simply finding a topic to talk about. A heart protection pill was equivalent to a life. It was so precious that it would not be sold no matter how much money was offered. Even if they did not need it now, they could keep it for a rainy day in the future. Fatso smiled and took out 3 jade boxes. He carefully put them away and asked, Boss, where are we going next? We'll wait here. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed. Not only was the chance of finding the alchemy fire slim, but it was also a waste of time. It was better to stay here and cultivate while waiting for news. So you're hiding here. However, at this time, a calm voice sounded behind Qin Feiyong and Fatso. The two frowned and turned their heads. They saw a young man in black standing above the cliff behind them, sizing them up. Very strong. Fatso whispered. Qin Feiyong nodded. This person's aura was unfathomable. He was at least an 8-star combat emperor. It was very likely that he was a 9-star combat emperor. The young man in black said, I heard that you killed and robbed from Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng and snatched a magical fruit. Can you show it to me? Killed and robbed? Qin Feiyong immediately raised his eyebrows. Fatso's eyes turned cold and said, Let me clarify 2 points. First, we didn't kill them. Second, to be able to snatch the fruit is our true ability. The young man in black said, Then why is everyone saying that you killed and robbed? Some people who want to get the fruit, but don't have the ability to do so are just spreading rumors. Fatso showed a look of disdain. Whether it's a rumor or not, I want to see the fruit. The young man in black laughed. His attitude was very tough. Qin Feiyong said indifferently, What if I don't show it to you? Then today, I'm afraid you will be buried here. The young man in black smiled faintly, his eyebrows brimming with confidence. You? Fatso raised the corner of his mouth and looked at him playfully. It seems that after killing Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng, your self-confidence has swelled to an uncontrollable level. Now I'll show you what a real expert is. What is an overwhelming combat strength? The young man in black laughed. But at the end, his eyes became extremely contemptuous. At the same time, rays of cold light burst out from his eyes. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying aura rushed out from his body like a volcanic eruption. 8-star combat emperor. Qin Feiyong muttered. He had never eaten pork, but he had never seen a pig run. Although the strongest in their small team was only a 7-star combat emperor, when they were in the continent's capital, they had seen many 8-star combat emperors, 9-star combat emperors and even war masters. So, from the strength of this person's aura, they could instantly distinguish his true cultivation. Just an 8-star combat emperor, what's there to be arrogant about? Fatso laughed and said, Boss, I have a favor to ask of you. Say it. Qin Feiyong said. Fatso said. Hit his face, hit it hard. Why? Qin Feiyang asked. Fatso joked, didn't you notice? When he laughs, he's especially despicable. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He looked at the young man in black and nodded. It seems to be so. The conversation between the two of them was not concealed, and every word fell into the ears of the black-clothed youth. His face darkened bit by bit. When Fatso said that he was especially despicable, a trace of ruthlessness crept into his eyes. Trash who doesn't know what's good for you. He shouted and waved his big hand. His battle chi surged and turned into a dazzling sharp blade. It was more than 100 feet long, like a crescent moon, emitting a shocking sharpness. High-grade battle art. Qin Feiyang whispered. This person's cultivation was an 8-star combat emperor. With the enhancement of the high-grade battle art, his strength was quite impressive. However, he wanted to kill him with just this little strength? He was simply daydreaming. Clang! Qin Feiyang waved his hand and a red sword aura appeared. 2 flaming sword shadows instantly appeared. The sharpness released by the sword shadows was not inferior to the sharp blade. Slash! Qin Feiyang shouted coldly. The 2 sword shadows whizzed out one after another. The flames lit up the sky and the sharpness tore through the mountains and rivers. Boom! Crack! The first sword shadow and the sharp blade collided. Chapter 5:15. Evenly matched? The black-robed young man was stunned. He originally thought that Qin Feiyang's strength was only a little bit stronger than Zhao Wei's, but he did not expect that Qin Feiyang was actually able to tie with him. Evenly matched? Don't joke around. The show has just begun. Fatso chuckled at the side. The black-robed young man was shocked and his hair stood on end. Clang! The second sword shadow was slashing towards him madly with an ear-piercing buzzing sound. Everywhere it went, the void was distorted. A single sword shadow is equivalent to a fatal blow. What kind of battle technique is this? The black-robed young man was surprised. However, he did not lose his composure. Boom! A large amount of battle chi appeared and condensed into a huge arrow in the void in front of him. The arrow was as thick as a bucket and dozens of meters long. It shone brightly like the stars and its tip emitted a destructive sharpness. Next, his eyes were filled with killing intent. He waved his hand and the arrow trembled in the air and shot towards the sword shadow. Boom! A thunderous sound exploded in the area. The collision of the two created a destructive shockwave that swept in all directions. The nearby majestic mountains and rivers, the towering ancient trees, and the fearful ferocious beasts that were fleeing in fear were as vulnerable as dead wood. In the blink of an eye, the land within a 1-mile radius was razed to the ground and not a single blade of grass was left. Billowing dust covered all directions. In the dust, Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent Fatso into the ancient castle. Then, he sensed the aura of the black-robed young man and charged over. I didn't expect you to hide so well. The black-robed young man's face was gloomy. He did not dare to hold back and fought with Qin Feiyang crazily. What happened? Hearing the commotion, the people nearby rushed over and surrounded the edge of the battlefield. They scanned the dust in front of them with bewilderment. Who in the world was fighting inside? Whoosh! Soon, another dozen or so figures rushed over at top speed. There were men and women, fat and thin. However, without exception, the aura they exuded were far superior to the others. Moreover, when the others saw these people, their eyes were filled with reverence. What happened? A rather handsome young man in white asked without turning his head as he scanned the dusty area ahead. We don't know either. Someone immediately replied. The young man in white frowned and raised his hand. Strong winds began to blow in all directions, preparing to blow away the dust and smoke. But at this moment, a painful scream suddenly rang out from within the dust cloud. Following closely, a bloody figure like a meteor rushed out of the dust and smoke and shot into the sky. It's him, Emohi. When they saw this person, the expressions of the surrounding crowd changed. In fact, even the pupils of the dozen or so people that had arrived later shrunk. Whoosh! Just as the black-clothed youth rushed out of the smoke, another black-clothed figure rushed out. It was Qin Feiyang. Ma-san. Immediately, everyone's eyes were filled with deep disbelief. Zhao Wei and Liang Cheng's defeat was already hard for them to accept. But now, even Mo He, an 8-star combat emperor, was beaten beyond recognition by him. How strong was this guy? Qin Feiyong stood in the void and scanned the surrounding crowd. His gaze lingered on the dozen or so people for a while, but there was not the slightest change in his expression. Moreover, there were no obvious wounds on his body. Whoosh! Without a word, Qin Feiyong turned into a stream of light and rushed into the sky. His big hand was like an eagle's claw, grabbing Mo He's neck. What does he want to do? Seeing this, everyone was surprised. Didn't you just say that you want to show me what a real expert is? What is an overwhelming combat power? Is that all? Qin Feiyong grabbed Mo He with one hand and the battle chi in his other palm surged. He looked at Mo He with disdain. Don't be arrogant too early. Soon you will know the consequences of offending me. Mo He growled, his face full of resentment. Is that so? Then I'll send you to hell first. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He raised his arm and slapped Mo He's chest. How dare you? Mo He roared, but there was a trace of panic on his face. At the same time, the surrounding crowd also changed their expressions. Ma-san, don't hit him. The dozen or so people who came later immediately rushed towards Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows and his arm stopped in the void. What's going on? Could it be that this Mo He had some background? Why? You don't dare to fight. Why are you still so arrogant with such little courage? If you have the guts, kill me today. Come on. Seeing that Qin Feiyong had stopped, Mo He had a smile on his face. Furthermore, he was shouting non-stop. He was extremely arrogant. So awesome. Qin Feiyong was startled. Then he immediately slapped Mo He's face. A blood-red handprint appeared on Mo He's face. You dare to slap me? Mo He suddenly showed a look of disbelief. Then, his face was full of resentment and he roared like a madman. I will definitely kill you and make you suffer so much that you will regret being born in this world. Slap. Qin Feiyong didn't say anything else and sent out another slap. Mo He screamed and blood gushed out from his nose and mouth. Come on, continue to shout. Qin Feiyong showed his white teeth. Mo He roared, little bastard, wait for me. Yes, 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 continue. Qin Feiyong gave Mo He another slap and the smile on his face became brighter. Mo He did not dare to say anything. Do you think I won't hit you if you don't shout? What a naive child. Qin Feiyong shook his head and sighed. He raised his arm and slapped Mo He's face one by one. Mo He screamed but did not scream. His face quickly swelled up like a pig's head. Now he couldn't even scream. He could only whimper in grievance. Qin Feiyong also finally stopped. He chuckled and said, still so arrogant? Mo He shook his head repeatedly, his eyes full of pleading. Qin Feiyong laughed. Wouldn't it have been better if you had done this earlier? Why do you have to make such a big fuss and hurt your face and body? Whoosh! This time, the dozen or so people flew over and surrounded Qin Feiyong. Ma-san, let him go immediately. Don't think that you have the right to be arrogant just because you have some strength. In front of us, you are not qualified. The dozen or so people looked unfriendly. There were a total of 11 people, 9 7-star combat emperors and 2 8-star combat emperors. In other words, including Zhao Wei and Mo He, the 7-star combat emperors and 8-star combat emperors of the inner palace were all present. Qin Feiyong glanced at them and said indifferently, what if I don't let him go? One of them said coldly, don't even think about leaving alive today. Seeing this, Mo He lost his patience and roared, why are you still talking nonsense? Quickly kill him. Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He sneered, do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? After saying this, his 5 fingers suddenly tightened and he decisively crushed Mo He's throat. Blood flowed from his big hand to his arm and dyed the clothes on his arm red. Some of the blood splattered on his face. At this moment, he looked like a merciless killing god. He really killed him? The 11 people were dumbfounded. The inner palace disciples in the distance also looked at the dead Mo He with a dull expression. He even dared to kill Mo He. Who did he borrow the courage from? Crazy. This guy must be crazy. Otherwise, he would never dare to do such a shocking thing. Qin Feiyong turned a blind eye to this. He loosened his 5 fingers and Emohi's body fell down. Whoosh! A young man came back to his senses and immediately swooped down, holding Emohi's body and returning to the sky. Is he dead? The other 10 people looked at the young man and asked. He's dead. The young man said in a deep voice. Whoosh! The 11 people immediately looked at Qin Feiyong. The woman in the black silk dress said, You're not Ma San. Qin Feiyong's heart trembled. He smiled faintly and said, Why do you say that? The woman in the black dress said, Ma San is only a 2-star combat emperor. His battle chi and battle art are different from yours. Who are you? Why did you pretend to be Ma San? Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded and said, I'm not Ma San. Damn it. The 11 people's eyes turned cold and they became alert. Don't be so nervous. What I mean is, I'm no longer the Ma San. Now I'm your nightmare. Do you remember how you bullied me in the past? You don't remember, but I remember it in my heart. Now I'll take it back little by little. Qin Feiyong laughed. What do you mean? Are you Ma San or not? If you are, how do you explain your cultivation battle chi and battle art? The young man yelled. Qin Feiyong sighed deeply and shook his head. I've said it so clearly, but you still don't understand. Are you worthy of being the genius of the inner palace? The 11 people couldn't help but look angry. I've been hiding my cultivation in the past. You must be asking why I'm hiding it. To put it nicely, I'm a low-key person. To put it bluntly, I want to see your faces now. Look at your dumbfounded expressions. It's indeed very interesting. As for battle chi, haven't you heard of it before? There's something in the world called dual battle souls. Qin Feiyong joked. What? You've activated double fighting souls? As soon as the words came out, the whole place was in an uproar. Not necessarily. Maybe I've activated 3 fighting souls. As for battle arts, maybe I've accumulated good karma in my previous life. I'm so lucky that I got a lot of them by chance. Their grades are not low. Qin Feiyong laughed. The 11 people stared at Qin Feiyong. They no longer doubted Qin Feiyong's identity. They just wanted to know how many fighting souls Qin Feiyong had. How many battle arts did he have? You want to know? Then let's talk with our strength. One-on-one all together. You can choose. Qin Feiyong looked at the 11 people provocatively. The young man was furious. However, the woman in the black dress grabbed him and whispered, He killed Emohi. We don't need to do anything. Someone will deal with him. When the young man heard this, a gloating smile appeared in his eyes. Let's go. Chapter 5:16. Phew! Looking at the backs of the 11 people, Qin Feiyong finally heaved a sigh of relief. At least he didn't arouse any suspicion. But this Emohi, what was his background? After the 11 people left, the others didn't dare to stay any longer. They all turned around and left as if they were running for their lives. Nearby, there was a valley that was about 100 feet wide. It was surrounded by mountains and there was only one narrow entrance. And at this moment, the man and woman who instigated everyone to send the message stood in the valley, looking at Qin Feiyong in the sky, their faces filled with disbelief. How could this bastard be so strong? Back then at the riverside, because of the fatty's attitude, they already bore a grudge against Qin Feiyong and the other man. That was why they wanted to kill the two of them. The news also spread out smoothly. Moreover, Emohi found them very quickly. But unexpectedly, the result was Emohi's tragic death. Even an 8-star war emperor was no match for him. Could it be that this cowardly trash was a 9-star war emperor? Su Wei, you even dared to kill Emohi. It's better if we don't provoke him anymore. The woman retracted her gaze and turned to look at the man. Su Wei frowned and said, What? Are you afraid? The woman did not deny it. If I didn't kill Emohi, I would definitely do as you said and not provoke him. But it's different now. Because he killed Emohi, that person will definitely not let him go. Let's just wait and watch the show. Su Wei sneered. At the same time, Qin Feiyong glanced down and locked his gaze on the valley. Because this valley was a very good place to hide. Whiz! He turned into a ray of light and swooped down towards the valley. The woman exclaimed, Not good, he's flying towards us. Could it be that he's discovered us? Let's go. Su Wei's expression also changed. The two of them immediately fled out of the valley and quickly disappeared into the forest. After a few breaths, Qin Feiyong landed in the valley and looked around. Seeing that there was no one around, he flew up to the cliff and sat cross-legged on a rock, closing his eyes to meditate. In front of him, there was a lush patch of grass that was as tall as a person. It could very well conceal his whereabouts. Outside the valley, the man and woman did not leave. The two of them stood on a branch of a large tree, using the dense leaves to cover their bodies as they looked at the sky above the valley. Time passed by slowly. The next morning, Su Wei finally retracted his gaze and said to the woman beside him, "Since he entered the valley yesterday, he has not appeared again. He should be cultivating in the valley. What do you want to do?" The woman was bewildered. Su Wei said, "I'll keep watch here. You go find Mo Wushan and tell him the news." The woman frowned. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Su Wei nodded. "Then why don't you just spread the news? Why go through so much trouble? Furthermore, I don't even know where Mo Wushan is now. How am I supposed to find him?" The woman said, "First of all, if I could directly send a message to Mo Wushan, I wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. But we didn't establish a contract with Mo Wushan. Secondly, if we spread the news like this, Ma San will probably hear about it, and then he will definitely slip away. After all, he has been in the inner palace for so many years. He might have made a few good friends. Thirdly, and this is the most important point, if this news reaches Mo Wushan's ears from others, then it won't be our credit, and everything we've done will be meaningless. So, we have to tell Mo Wushan personally." Su Wei said, his eyes shining. "All right, I'll go find him now." The woman pondered for a moment, nodded and said. Then she jumped down from the tree and flew into the depths of the mountain. Deep in the mountains, on the peak of a giant mountain, the woman in black and the other 11 people stood respectfully at the edge of the cliff. In front of the 11 people there was a green stone. At this moment, a white-haired young man sat on the green stone. This person was handsome like jade, his eyes were like stars, and he was about 1.85 meters tall. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and his whole body exuded an unfathomable aura. In front of this person there was a cold corpse. This corpse was Emohi. The white-haired young man looked at Emohi's corpse without any expression on his face, and his eyes were as calm as water. But the more he was like this, the more the woman in black and the others felt afraid. This was because they knew this person too well. The angrier he was, the calmer he was. The peak of the mountain fell into a dead silence, and only the whistling of the wind could be heard. No one knew how long had passed. The white-haired young man looked up at the woman in black and asked, "Who did it?" His voice was full of energy, and there was no sadness in it. The woman in black said, "Senior Brother Wushan, it was Ma San." "Ma San." The white-haired young man pondered for a moment and said, "I'll give you 3 days. If you can't find Ma San's whereabouts, buy a coffin and lie in it." Yes. The 11 people responded respectfully, and they did not dare to complain at all. The white-haired young man waved his hand and said, "Go find a place to bury him." A young man stepped forward, picked up Emohi's corpse and left with the others. Soon, only the white-haired young man was left. "Ma San, you'll die in 3 days. Are you ready?" The white-haired young man whispered and then closed his eyes. The peak of the mountain fell into a dead silence again. 3 days passed very quickly. However, the woman in black and the others did not have any news about Qin Feiyong. In front of a river, the 11 people gathered together, and they were all upset. After a while, the young man spoke first and said angrily, "Aren't you usually smart? Why aren't you talking now?" The woman in black asked, "What are you talking about?" The young man said, "Nonsense, of course we're talking about how to explain to Senior Brother Wushan. That's easy for you to say. Who here doesn't know Senior Brother Wushan's temper? As long as he says it, he'll definitely do it. If we go to find him like this, we'll definitely die miserably. Most importantly, even if Senior Brother Wushan kills us all, no one will dare to say a word." The woman in the black dress and the others all had worried looks on their faces. The young man frowned and suddenly slapped a huge rock beside him, and shouted, "That damn Ma San, where is he hiding?" Boom! At the same time, with a loud bang, the huge rock shattered. Is it useful to be angry now? The woman in black frowned. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, we can't avoid it. Let's go and meet Senior Brother Wushan. We can only hope that he'll show us mercy. As the 11 people were about to leave, a woman in a black dress suddenly ran out from the woods on the other side of the river. Senior brothers and sisters, wait. The woman blurted out as soon as she saw the 11 people. Her face was filled with joy. The 11 of them turned to look at the woman and frowned slightly. What's the matter? The young man asked. The woman leapt into the air and landed in front of the 11 people. I have news about Ma San. Can you bring me to Senior Brother Wushan? What? You have news about Ma San? Really? The young man and the others were astounded. The woman nodded. Let's go, let's go. The 11 people were overjoyed. They immediately brought the woman deeper into the woods. A few hundred breaths later, the group of people arrived at the top of the mountain and bowed respectfully. Greetings, Senior Brother Wushan. Do you have news? The white-haired young man asked without opening his eyes. Yes. The woman in black nodded. Whoosh! The white-haired young man rose to his feet and opened his eyes. 2 rays of light burst out from his eyes as he said, Bring me there at once. The woman hurriedly said, Senior Brother Wushan, please wait. The white-haired young man turned to look at her. His cold eyes were as sharp as a blade, causing the woman's heart to tremble. She did not dare to look at him directly. The woman in black said, Senior Brother Wushan, she knows where Ma San is. The white-haired young man took a deep look at the woman and said, What's your name? The woman said, Senior Brother, I'm Yulan. The white-haired young man said, From now on, you belong to me, Mo Wushan. You can have whatever you want in the inner hall. Thank you, Senior Brother Wushan. Yulan was overjoyed and quickly bowed to express her gratitude. The white-haired young man added, But if I can't find Ma San, I'll kill you. If I can't find Ma San, I'm at your mercy. Yulan was full of confidence. With Su Wei monitoring outside the valley, Ma San would definitely not be able to escape. Then, Yulan opened the teleportation door, and a group of people filed in. The next moment, they landed in the jungle outside the valley. When Su Wei saw Mo Wushan and the others appear, he immediately jumped down from the tree and bowed. Greetings, Senior Brothers and Sisters. Mo Wushan ignored him. The others also looked indifferent. Yulan asked Su Wei, is he still inside? Su Wei said, he didn't come out. He must still be inside. Yulan nodded and turned to look at Mo Wushan. Senior Brother Wushan, Ma San is in this valley. Whoosh! Mo Wushan immediately turned into a stream of light and went straight to the valley. Su Wei and the others immediately followed. At the same time, Qin Feiyang, who was cultivating in the valley, suddenly opened his eyes. Why would someone come? Was it a coincidence? Immediately, he restrained his aura and stared at the entrance of the valley. When he saw Mo Wushan enter the valley, his pupils suddenly shrank. This person's aura was so strong. As Su Wei and the others entered the valley, Qin Feiyang knew that this was not a coincidence. They came prepared. But how did these people know that he was hiding in the valley? At the same time, Mo Wushan scanned the valley, and his calm eyes gradually became fierce. Swish! Suddenly, Mo Wushan turned around and locked his eyes on Qin Feiyang's hiding place. I've been discovered? Qin Feiyang was shocked. Mo Wushan's eyes never moved away. Are you going to come out yourself? Or do I have to invite you out? I've actually been discovered. Qin Feiyang suddenly felt incredulous. Chapter 517. Su Wei and the rest followed Mo Wushan's gaze and looked at the bushes in front of Qin Feiyang. Their eyes were extremely unfriendly. Very soon, Mo Wushan lost his patience. Seems like you want me to invite you out. His gaze turned cold as he pointed his index finger in the air. A ray of dazzling battle chi suddenly pierced through the sky, carrying an astonishing aura as it blasted towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and instantly disappeared without a trace. Boom! Just as his foot disappeared, the battle chi arrived. With a loud bang, the entire mountain was instantly reduced to ashes. Immediately, Mo Wushan frowned. The woman in black and the rest were also a little stunned. How could there be no one? The young man suddenly shouted, Su Wei Yulan, what's going on? Where is he? The two of them looked forward, their eyes filled with confusion. The young man said angrily, answer me quickly. I don't know either. Yulan shook her head and turned to look at Su Wei. Aren't you here watching all this time? Su Wei said, I've been watching from here, and I haven't left even half a step. I'm sure he's in the valley. Yulan roared, what's the use of being sure? You have to see him. Su Wei also began to panic. Everyone in the inner hall knew Mo Wuxian's character. He was definitely not someone to be trifled with. The young man said coldly, Su Wei Yulan, you guys really have the guts to lie to senior brother Mo Wuxian. Tell me, how do you want to die? We really didn't lie to senior brother Wuxian. Senior brother Wuxian, please believe us. Su Wei and Yulan trembled as they quickly knelt on the ground and begged. Mo Wuxian ignored them as he scanned the void in front of him, his eyes flickering. Seeing this, the young man's eyes flashed with killing intent as he raised his arm to kill Su Wei and Yulan. Wait. At this moment Mo Wuxian finally spoke. The young man also immediately stopped and looked at Mo Wuxian in confusion. Mo Wuxian said, I can feel that when I entered the valley, there was a pair of eyes staring at me, so Ma San was indeed here before. The young man and the others were bewildered. Since he was here, why didn't he see anyone else? The woman in black asked. Then how did he escape? Mo Wuxian said, I don't know how he escaped, but I'm sure that this Ma San is no longer the Ma San of the past. The woman in the black dress asked, should we continue looking? No need. He will appear. Go and look for the alchemy fire immediately. This will be a very good bait. Mo Wuxian said. Bait? The 11 of them were slightly taken aback, but they immediately understood. Yulan asked carefully, Senior brother Wuxian, what about me and Su Wei? Mo Wuxian's eyes flickered as he looked at the two. The hearts of Yulan and the other two also hung in the air. Before the training ends, follow them. In the end. After saying this, Mo Wuxian soared into the sky and disappeared like a bolt of lightning. Yulan and Su Wei were overjoyed. They stood up and looked at the black-dressed woman and the others. They cupped their hands and said, Senior brothers and sisters, please take care of us in the future. Take care of? Don't you know who you are? You don't even have the right to carry our shoes, and you still want to be with us? What a joke. The 11 of them were full of sarcasm. Then they ignored the two of them and left. Don't even have the right to carry our shoes, Su Wei muttered to himself. He raised his head and looked at the backs of the 11 of them. He sneered, just you wait. Sooner or later, I will trample all of you under my feet. Yulan was also extremely angry, but soon these emotions were controlled. With a flattering smile, she chased after the 11 of them. In the ancient castle, Qin Feiyang's eyes were full of suspicion. Oh, who is this person? Mo Wuxian and Mo He have the same surname. Is there any relationship between the two of them? Although he didn't know any of this from the conversation, this Mo Wuxian, regardless of identity or status, was not comparable to an ordinary inner hall disciple. It seemed that he had to find someone to investigate Mo Wuxian's background. Also, he had to investigate Su Wei and Yulan. They actually dared to spy on him. How reckless. Fatso said from the side, Boss, you heard it too. They want to use the elixir fire as bait. You have to be careful. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, if I didn't know in advance, I might have fallen into their trap. But now that I know, there's nothing to worry about. Fatso thought for a while and said with a smile, now let's wait for the news. Since Mo Wuxian wanted to set a trap, he would definitely spread the news when he found the elixir fire. Therefore, there was no need to continue the search. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, but I have to go out. Fatso said, Fat Lord will go too. Qin Feiyang glanced at Fatso. Without saying anything, he left the ancient castle with Fatso. Outside, the dust had dissipated. Fatso looked at the broken ground and said in surprise, how strong is this Mo Wuxian? Very strong. Qin Feiyang said. Judging from his aura, he was definitely not inferior to Yan Nanshan. In other words, this Mo Wuxian was most likely one of the 3 kings of the Cloud State, a battlemaster level expert. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang soared into the sky and looked around. Boss, what are you doing? Fatso looked at him in confusion. Looking for someone. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he turned into a ray of light and sped towards the west. Looking for someone? Fatty furrowed his eyebrows and quickly followed. About half an hour later, when Qin Feiyong passed by a mountain ridge, he suddenly sensed the fluctuations of a battle. His eyes immediately lit up and he flew towards the place where the battle fluctuation came from. Dozens of breaths later, Qin Feiyong landed on a mountain peak and looked down, only to see two young men fighting. One of them was wearing white clothes and was about 1.75 meters tall. He had a dignified appearance and was obviously an alchemist. The other person was wearing black clothes. His body was tall and sturdy with bulging muscles. He was filled with a valiant aura. Qin Feiyong looked at them for a while. Both of them had the same cultivation level, being 3-star combat emperors. Furthermore, both of their battle arts were of high quality. However, the burly man's battle awareness and battle experience were stronger than the alchemist's by a level. Thus, the alchemist was at a disadvantage. But what made Qin Feiyong puzzled was that normally, when they met an alchemist, they would try to curry favor with him. But why would this burly man become enemies with an alchemist? Could it be that another treasure had appeared? Thinking of this, Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed and said, "Let's go and take a look." However, just as he was about to take a step forward, his gaze suddenly turned and looked at the cliff below. Halfway up the mountain there was a protruding rock. It was about 5 to 6 meters tall and was covered with shrubs and weeds. A black figure was sneakily lying in the grass, also paying attention to the battlefield. And the back of this figure was very familiar. Fatty also lowered his head to look, and a trace of suspicion crept into his eyes. "It's him." Suddenly, both of their eyes lit up at the same time. This person was the youth in black who fought with them for the heart protection fruit, Hijio. "I didn't expect to meet him here." It's really a case of searching high and low only to find it without any effort. "Fat Lord, go and capture him." Fatso laughed. "Don't alert the enemy." Qin Feiyong stretched out his hand to stop him. Although this person looked inconspicuous, he was actually a cunning old fox. He must have his eyes on something. About 100 breaths passed. A scream suddenly rang out. Qin Feiyong looked over and saw that the alchemist had been punched in the heart by the burly man. With a bang, the alchemist was smashed into the ground below and died on the spot. "Trash like you want to snatch it from me? You're overestimating yourself." The burly man glanced at the alchemist in disdain. Then, his eyes lit up and he flew towards a lake not far away. At the same time, Hijio got up hurriedly and jumped into the forest below, chasing after the burly man. Qin Feiyong and Fatso exchanged glances, retracted their auras and followed. Before long, the burly man landed in front of the lake. The lake was more than 10,000 feet long and its surface was very calm. The lake was also surrounded by lush vegetation. However, there was a pungent smell of blood in the air. When Qin Feiyong and the fatty got closer to take a look, their faces couldn't help but turn pale. On the surface of the lake, there were hundreds of corpses of aquatic beasts of various sizes. The lake water was dyed red and it was a shocking sight. Judging from the wounds, they were killed not long ago. Dong! The burly man glanced at the corpses of the aquatic beasts on the surface of the lake and jumped in without hesitation. Fatso asked suspiciously, "Why is that burly man not surprised at all when he looks at those corpses?" Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment and said, "Those aquatic beasts should have been killed by the burly man and the alchemist together." "You mean that they first discovered the treasure in the lake, and worked together to get rid of the aquatic beasts in the lake. Then they got greedy and wanted to take it for themselves?" Fatso asked. "That should be the case," Qin Feiyong said. However, he was not sure since he did not witness it with his own eyes. Fatso believed him and his eyes shone with greed. "In that case, there must be some shocking treasure in the lake. We'll know if there's any treasure when the burly man comes out." After Qin Feiyong said that, he looked at Hijio who was in front. Hijio was hiding in a bush 100 meters away, and was also staring at the lake with greed in his eyes. All of a sudden, he moved again and moved towards the lake. Soon, Hijio walked to the lakeside and hid behind a rock. He took out a dagger and his face was filled with murderous intent. Fatso was stunned and said, He's planning to kill and steal the treasure. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. This man is indeed treacherous, Qin Feiyong whispered. Although the burly man killed the alchemist, he was also badly injured. He Jiu was a 3-star combat emperor and his strength was not inferior to the burly man. Plus, it was a sneak attack and he could definitely kill the burly man with one strike. Dong! 100 breaths passed. The surface of the lake suddenly exploded and the burly man rushed out from the waves with a palm-sized iron box in his hand. I finally got it. Chapter 518. Looking at the iron box in the burly man's hand, Qin Feiyong and Fatso looked at each other in surprise. What kind of treasure could make this man so excited? Whoosh! Finally, He Jiu launched a sneak attack. The dagger in his arm suddenly jumped out from behind the rock and went straight to the burly man in the sky. The burly man, who was immersed in ecstasy, suddenly quivered and looked down at He Jiu. Why are you here? Immediately, the burly man was slightly stunned. He never thought that there would be someone hiding near the lake. It was also because of this moment that he fell into eternal damnation. One had to know. He Jiu came prepared. The burly man was completely unprepared. If he counterattacked at the first moment, he might be able to escape. But now he couldn't escape. Puff! He Jiu rushed forward and the dagger in his hand shone brightly like a poisonous snake showing its fangs. With a puff, it went into the burly man's heart. Suddenly blood splattered in the sky. The burly man screamed in pain and the iron box in his hand fell out of his hand. He Jiu pulled out the dagger and ignored the burly man and went straight to the iron box. Whoosh! At this moment, Qin Feiyong also moved. He used the phantom steps and quickly landed beside the iron box like a flash of lightning. His big hand reached out and grabbed the iron box first. After all, he was a 7-star combat emperor. And He Jiu was only a 3-star combat emperor. There was a difference of 4 levels. Moreover, the phantom steps was a perfect auxiliary combat skill that could increase his speed by 4 times. Although the distance between him and the metal box was greater than the distance between He Jiu and the metal box, He Jiu's overwhelming speed made it impossible for him to snatch the metal box in front of him. He Jiu was stunned on the spot. Why was there still someone else? How dare he snatch his item? Did he want to die? A glint of killing intent appeared in his eyes. However, when he looked at Qin Feiyong, his gaze immediately trembled, and fear that couldn't be removed crawled up his face. As for the burly man, he had already died and fell into the lake. Whoosh! At this moment, Fatso also rushed over. He ignored He Jiu and stared at the iron box in Qin Feiyong's hand. He said anxiously, "Boss, what is it?" When Qin Feiyong was about to open the iron box, He Jiu said anxiously, "This is mine. You can't be so overbearing." Yours? Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked at him playfully. Fatso chuckled and said, "Brat, we saw you kill and rob with our own eyes. You still dare to say that? Saw it with your own eyes?" He Jiu was taken aback, and his face was filled with disbelief. "To tell you the truth, when the big man and the alchemist were killing each other, we were already here. We just didn't say anything." Fatso teased. He Jiu said angrily, "You are despicable." Despicable? No matter how despicable we are not as despicable as you. Stay there and don't move. Otherwise, don't blame me, Fat Lord, for being merciless. Fatso smiled disdainfully and lowered his head to look at the iron box. Qin Feiyong opened the iron box, and a palm-sized jade slip suddenly appeared in front of them. Battle art. Fatso's eyes lit up. He immediately grabbed the jade slip and immersed his mind into it to read it. However, soon, his face was filled with disappointment. What's wrong? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. Fuck, Fat Lord thought it was a perfect battle art. He was full of expectations, but it's only an upper-tier battle art. Fatso was furious. He threw the jade slip to Qin Feiyong as if he was throwing trash. His face was filled with disdain. An upper-tier battle art? Qin Feiyong was stunned. He caught the jade slip and checked it. He could not help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Just as Fatso said, it was only an upper-tier battle art. However, it was not completely worthless, because it was an auxiliary battle art. Seeing their expressions, He Jiu was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He roared. Don't pretend to be innocent after getting a bargain. What do you mean? Fatso frowned. Bastard, still pretending? I don't believe that you don't know the value of an auxiliary battle art. Heejo said angrily. Qin Feiyang and Heejo were dumbfounded. Thinking about it carefully, their current words and actions did seem to be pretentious. How should they put it? Auxiliary battle arts were extremely rare treasures in places like the 9 continents. Even if it was a low-tier auxiliary battle art, it would still cause people to go crazy over it. Let alone an upper-tier auxiliary battle art. In other words, an upper-tier auxiliary battle art in the 9 continents was a priceless treasure that could not even be bought with gold coins. But now, Heejo was naturally unhappy that he and Fatso showed some disdain. Of course, Heejo did not know the situation. If he knew that Qin Feiyang had mastered a perfect auxiliary battle art, he would definitely be petrified on the spot. Heejo looked at the two and said gloomily, since you don't care about it, give it to me. In your dreams. Even if we throw it away, we won't give it to a villain like you. Fatso sneered. Heejo's eyes darkened. What? You want to fight? Come on, let's settle the score from last time. A cold light flashed in Fatso's eyes. He reached out his hand and grabbed at Heejo's head like an eagle's claw. Heejo suddenly realized something. He was so angry that he forgot the strength of these two people in front of him. Even Zhao Wei, Liangcheng, and Mo He were no match for Ma San. Wasn't he looking for death by challenging them? In an instant, his eyes were full of fear. Seeing that Fatso was about to crush Heejo's head, Qin Feiyang reached out and grabbed Fatso's wrist. He shook his head and said, I have something to ask. Fatso withdrew his hand and stared at Heejo. He sneered. I'll let you live a little longer. Heejo's eyes trembled and his face turned pale. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Don't be nervous. As long as you answer me honestly, I promise I won't kill you. What's the relationship between Mo Wuxian and Mo He? How come you don't even know this? Heejo was surprised. Fatso's face twitched. He said angrily, we asked you to answer, not to ask. Do you believe that Fat Lord will kill you now? Heejo's body trembled. He hurriedly said, Mo Wuxian is Mo He's elder brother. I see. Qin Feiyang mumbled. No wonder Mo Wuxian went to such lengths to kill him. He asked again, what's the background of this Mo Wuxian? He has a great background. Not only is he the eldest son of the Mo family, but he's also the personal disciple of the Mansion Master. And he's the strongest of the 3 King Realm Masters. Inner Hall disciples like us don't dare to provoke him, Heejo said. In other words, he was impressed by Qin Feiyang's courage. He actually killed Mo Wuxian's younger brother. This was undoubtedly a challenge to the Grim Reaper. The Mansion Master's disciple? Qin Feiyang and Fatso looked at each other. They didn't expect this person's background to be so shocking. Is the Mo family very strong? Fatso frowned. Heejo nodded. Very strong. They're the most powerful family in Yunzhou. Fatso swallowed and said in a low voice, Boss, it seems like we're in big trouble. Qin Feiyang felt the same. But there was nothing to be afraid of. They could just leave after getting the alchemy fire. He didn't believe that the Mo family of Yunzhou would dare to go to Lingzhou. Moreover, even if they went to Lingzhou, it would be useless. Because the people of Yunzhou didn't even know who he was. After thinking for a while, Qin Feiyang asked, Are Zhao Wei and Liangcheng also powerful? Yes. Heejo nodded. The Zhao family and the Liang family are also super families. They both have combat masters in their families. Boss, you're really a jinx. No matter where you go, you'll offend super forces. Fatso looked at him with disdain. Get lost. Qin Feiyang glared at him and looked at Heejo. Last question. Who are Su Wei and Yulan? They're just small fries like me. But Su Wei is luckier than me. He's an alchemist, but he only has level 5 spiritual power. Heejo looked at him with disdain. Qin Feiyang asked, what do they look like? What? He doesn't even know this. Is Ma San suffering from amnesia? Heejo was shocked and suspicious. Could it be that the two people in front of him were impersonators? Do you want to die? Fatso's eyes turned cold. Heejo's expression changed. He waved his hand hurriedly and his battle aura condensed into two figures. It's them. Qin Feiyong and the fatty raised their heads to look, and their eyes immediately emitted a cold light. They didn't bother to pursue the matter at the riverside. But they didn't expect that they would dare to plot against them. They were really courting death. At this moment, He Jiu suddenly looked behind Qin Feiyong and Fatso. His expression became respectful and he said, "Greetings, Senior Brother Wushan." Qin Feiyong and Fatso were shocked and they quickly turned around. But where was Mo Wushan? Not even a shadow could be seen. Fooled? They quickly turned around and saw He Jiu running towards the mountain in front without looking back. Seeing this, the two of them looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They remembered that they used to fool others with this trick. And they had successfully avoided many disasters. They didn't expect that they would be fooled by this trick today. This guy was really a cunning old man. However, was it possible for a mere 3-star combat emperor to slip away in front of them? Whoosh! Qin Feiyong waved his hand and swept up Fatso. He used the phantom step and chased after He Jiu. He Jiu looked back and he was scared out of his wits. What a fast speed! In the blink of an eye, he had shortened the distance by half. What to do? If this continued, they wouldn't be able to escape. Suddenly, a black figure appeared in front of them. It was a young man in black. He was tall and straight. His eyebrows were as sharp as swords. Why would he come here? Seeing the young man in black, He Jiu's expression changed. His eyes were filled with horror and fear. But then, his eyes lit up and he shouted, "Senior Brother Nieyu, Ma San and Zhang Lu found a superior auxiliary battle art." Qin Feiyong and Fatso frowned. They followed He Jiu's gaze and saw the young man in black. Their bodies and minds suddenly tightened. This was another elite. His aura was like a vast ocean, unfathomable. Superior auxiliary battle art. At the same time, the young man in black also looked at He Jiu. His eyes were shining. Then his gaze went past He Jiu and locked onto Qin Feiyong and Fatso. Whoosh! The next moment, the black-clothed young man began to use a mysterious footwork, and his speed suddenly doubled. Chapter 519. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed and he cupped one hand in the other before his chest. "Senior Brother Nieyu, what can I do for you?" Nieyu said. "Hand over the superior auxiliary skill." Skill? Qin Feiyong paused and shook his head. "I don't have it." "Then who has it?" Nieyu frowned. Qin Feiyong said, "He Jiu has it." He Jiu, who was standing behind to watch the show, suddenly changed his expression and said angrily, "Ma San, don't talk nonsense. The skill is with you." Qin Feiyong said calmly, "If I have it, why would I chase you?" Hearing that, Nieyu pondered for a while and suddenly turned to look at He Jiu. His eyes flashed with shocking light. He Jiu quickly took out his Chinkuan bag and said, "Senior Brother Nieyu, the skill is really not with me. You can search it if you don't believe me." Seeing that, Nieyu's eyes flashed and he looked at Qin Feiyong and He Jiu saying, "Give me your Chinkuan bag too." "Search my Chinkuan bag?" Qin Feiyong paused and said helplessly, "Well, I admit that the skill is with me. But I got it with my own ability. Are you going to rob me? I took it from you with my own ability too. But it's not so easy now. You not only have to give me the skill but also kneel down and kowtow to me. This is the price for fooling me." Nieyu looked arrogant and insufferably arrogant. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed a touch of coldness and he said with a smile, "In this case, I'll say something. If you kneel down and kowtow to me now, I'll spare your life." What? Is this bastard out of his mind? How dare he talk back to Senior Brother Nieyu? He Jiu, who was behind, was shocked in his heart. At the same time, Nieyu also showed a trace of anger and said, "You think you have the strength to sweep the inner hall after defeating Emohi? Now I'll let you know the consequences of being arrogant in front of me." Boom! After that, a terrifying pressure rushed out of his body and pounced towards Qin Feiyong and Qinyu with the force of a landslide. 9-star combat emperor. Fatso's pupils contracted. Qin Feiyong's expression didn't change at all. He smiled faintly and said, "If it's just this level of pressure, I'm afraid it's not enough." Nieyu raised his eyebrows. What was going on? How could he be so relaxed under his pressure? Boom! The next moment, his body shook, and his oppressive might abruptly intensified, firmly locking onto Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Can you get any stronger? This is impossible." Nie Yu's body and mind immediately trembled. This was the full extent of his pressure, yet it was still unable to restrain this person? Could this Ma San also be a 9-star combat emperor? When He Jiu saw this, he was even more frightened. Without hesitation, he turned around and rushed down the mountain. "Don't go, let's make out." Fatso chuckled, turned into a stream of light and swooped down, chasing after He Jiu. But at the same time, Nie Yu also swooped down, looking for Fatso to catch him. "Damn, last time Zhao Wei was like this. Now you're like this. Does Fat Lord have a grudge against you?" Fatso was furious and hurriedly turned around and flew toward Qin Feiyang. When snatching the heart protection fruit, Fatso wanted to kill He Jiu. But at the critical moment, Zhao Wei arrived and he failed to do so. Unexpectedly this time, Nie Yu came to stop him again. This made him very angry, but he also knew that Nie Yu came to him, not really to stop him from killing He Jiu. Instead, he wanted to capture him and threaten Qin Feiyang. Therefore, he decisively gave up chasing He Jiu and flew toward Qin Feiyang. He didn't want to be a burden to Qin Feiyang. "You want to leave? How naive." Nie Yu sneered secretly. His speed was unbelievably fast, catching up with Fatso in the blink of an eye. His big hand violently reached out, grabbing toward Fatso. Humph! However, at this moment, a cold snort sounded. Qin Feiyang also landed beside Fatso, the battle chi in his palm surging, and he slapped toward Nie Yu's chest. How can he be so fast? Nie Yu was shocked. The big hand that was grabbing toward Fatso turned in the air, and a bright battle chi emerged from his palm. Boom! The two big hands collided with a loud bang. A thunderous sound exploded in the area. Furthermore, with the two of them as the center, a terrifying shockwave swept out in all directions. Qin Feiyang immediately mobilized his battle chi and condensed it into a battle chi boundary to protect Fatso behind him. But the mountains and rivers below were severely destroyed. Within a 1-mile radius, whether it was the mountains or the beasts, they were all crushed into pieces by the airwave. This scene was like the end of the world. It was terrifying. The two of them were in a stalemate for 3 breaths. All of a sudden, Qin Feiyang spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body flew out. Fatso was not spared either. He was sent flying, and blood spurted out of his mouth. However, with the protection of the battle chi boundary, there was no danger to his life. He was only seriously injured. Nie Yu laughed coldly and said disdainfully, "I thought you were strong, but it turns out that you only have this much strength." Boom! Qin Feiyang took a step into the air and stabilized his body. His gaze was like a blade, becoming incomparably sharp, and said, "Just this bit of strength is enough to kill you." After he finished speaking, with a wave of his hand, the scarlet sword chi surged, and 3 sword shadows instantly appeared out of thin air, making clanging sounds. "Kill!" Following Qin Feiyang's low shout, the 3 sword shadows immediately whistled towards Nie Yu. "Your cultivation is only at the 7 stars War Emperor. It's fine to kill trash like Zhao Wei, but in front of me it's useless." Nie Yu shook his head. Whether it was his face or his eyes, they were filled with contempt. "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang laughed coldly. The 3 sword shadows carried a terrifying sharpness, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived above Nie Yu's head. But at this moment, Nie Yu's battle chi surged, and actually condensed into a set of armor, covering his entire body, leaving only a pair of eyes exposed. The armor emitted a dazzling light. After the armor appeared, Nie Yu stood there. Not only did he not counterattack, he even crossed his arms over his chest, and the corner of his mouth pursed into a playful smile. Clang clang! The first sword shadow arrived and slashed towards Nie Yu's right shoulder. When the sword shadow and the armor met, an ear-piercing metallic sound was heard. Qin Feiyang was stunned. What kind of armor was this? Could actually block the Guiyuan sword art? Are you surprised? Let me tell you, this is not an ordinary armor. This is a battle armor evolved from a superior battle art. Its defensive power is not inferior to a real battle armor in the slightest. Even if it was someone at the same level as me, It would take 2 full strength attacks to break through the defense. And your cultivation level is lower than mine by a small level. Even if I stand here and don't fight back, you can't do anything to me. Niayu smiled, and his smile was very bright. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyong suddenly understood. And then the corner of his mouth pursed into a sneer. He admitted that the defense of this armor was indeed very powerful. If it was another 7-star combat emperor today, they would not be able to break it. But he was different. He had 2 perfect battle arts, and his combat power was not inferior to Niayu's. Breaking the defense of this armor was a piece of cake. In the blink of an eye, the second sword shadow arrived and once again slashed the armor on Niayu's right shoulder. Niayu was still calm, without the slightest bit of nervousness or worry, and was full of confidence. But all of a sudden, accompanied by a crisp cracking sound, a crack appeared on his armor. That moment, Niayu's eyes were filled with surprise. He hurriedly lowered his head to look at his right shoulder, and his eyes suddenly widened. It actually cracked. How could this be? Wasn't he a 7-star combat emperor? How could he have such strength? Could it be that this was a perfect battle art? Impossible. The highest level of battle art in Yunzhou was superior battle art. A perfect battle art was simply a legend. Something must have gone wrong somewhere. Just as Niayu was in a daze, the third sword shadow slashed down like lightning. Crack! The armor was completely shattered, and suddenly a bloody light burst out. Niayu's right arm was cut off on the spot. The heart-wrenching pain was like a tide, attacking every nerve in his body, causing him to scream in pain. Aya, what's going on? Didn't you say that only people of the same level can break your defense? Why is his arm cut off now? Fatso, who was standing not far away, reached out to touch his chin, revealing a suspicious look. But his eyes were filled with ridicule. Obviously, he was secretly mocking Niayu. Damn it, I'm going to kill you all. Niayu was completely enraged, and his face was distorted, looking incomparably ferocious. Roar! Accompanied by an earth-shattering beast roar. A huge ferocious beast rose from behind him. That was a brute elephant. Its body was dozens of feet tall, like a mountain in the sky, and its ferocious aura was intimidating in all directions. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. You're showing your battle soul so early. Does it mean that you've exhausted all your abilities? Die! Niayu roared, and his body was full of murderous intent. The brute elephant battle soul suddenly swooped down from the sky toward Qin Feiyong like a meteorite. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Without seeing him do anything, a red sword aura emerged from his body, turned into a vast ocean, and surged into the sky. Clang! In an instant, 10 sword shadows appeared in the world. Waves of fire surged and flames rolled, illuminating half of the sky and earth. Immediately after, Qin Feiyong's mind moved, and 10 sword shadows fell from the sky, slashing toward the brute elephant battle soul. Boom! A loud explosion suddenly exploded. The brute elephant battle soul was annihilated on the spot. Niayu's body and mind trembled, and blood spurted from his mouth, and his face was as pale as paper. But there was still 1 sword shadow left. Clang! The sword shadow did not stop at all, and cut across the sky, slashing toward Niayu like lightning. A shrill scream resounded through the sky. Niayu's 7-foot body was cut in half on the spot, and his blood flowed like a waterfall, dyeing the sky red. What? Even Senior Niayu is no match for him. In a forest far away, Hijio hid in a bush, looking at Qin Feiyong in the sky, and his face was full of horror. Especially the look in his eyes, as if he was looking at a devil. He was hiding here because he wanted to see if he could pick up a bargain. But he did not expect to see such a scene. The 9-star War Emperor Niayu, the one with a light mouth under the War Master, was actually dismembered by a single slash. Whoosh! When he came back to his senses, Hijio did not dare to stay any longer. He turned around and began to flee. He was scared out of his wits. The current Masan was too terrifying. Chapter 520. High up in the sky. After killing Niayu, Qin Feiyong's heart did not waver in the slightest. Because if you don't kill him, he will kill you and he won't show any mercy. Tsk. Boss's current strength can be said to be the #1 person below the War Master. Fatso was secretly speechless at the side. You know, Qin Feiyong was not even 20 years old yet, and he was already so strong. If he were to wait another 10 or 20 years, wouldn't he be even more amazing? Of course, Fatso was also completely confident in himself. In another 10 or 20 years, he would definitely have astonishing achievements. The source of his confidence was the door of potential. Most importantly, he had followed the right person. If he hadn't shamelessly followed Qin Feiyong back then, he would probably still be in Black Bear City, unknown to the public. Who? Qin Feiyong exhaled, looked at Fatso and laughed. Let's go find a place to go into seclusion. He felt helpless in his heart. He had always wanted to go into seclusion to cultivate, but there was always trouble. Seclusion? Fatso was startled and asked, what about He Jiu? He Jiu was obviously suspecting their identities. If word got out, it would not be good for them. He's a smart man. He knows what to say and what not to say. Qin Feiyong smiled and flew towards the depths of the mountain range. Smart man? Fatty furrowed his brows, then chuckled and turned to follow him. A moment later, the two of them landed on top of a huge peak. This place was filled with towering ancient trees and weeds. Furthermore, the giant peak was very tall, more than 1,000 feet tall. Standing at the edge of the cliff, one's field of vision was very wide. Not only could he hide, he could also monitor his surroundings. Qin Feiyong jumped onto a piece of bluestone and looked around. He was quite satisfied with this place. Then, he sat cross-legged on the bluestone and closed his eyes to cultivate. Fatso stood at the side and dawdled for a moment, then said, Boss, can you give the superior auxiliary battle art that you just obtained to Fat Lord? Qin Feiyong opened his eyes and looked at him in confusion. Last time in the Forgotten Land, the perfect battle art that Madame gave Lu Hong was a slaughter battle art. So Fat Lord wants to give her a support battle art. Fatso blushed and said shyly. Qin Feiyong looked at Fatso strangely. Could it be that Fatso had fallen in love with Lu Hong? If that was the case, it would be a good thing. Fatso felt uncomfortable being stared at like this. Just as he was about to explode, Qin Feiyong took out a jade slip and tossed it to Fatso. Thank you, boss. Immediately, Fatso was overjoyed. Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. He directly sent Fatso to the castle. It seemed that Fatso was really in love. However, it wasn't that he discriminated against Fatso, but with Fatso's figure, would Lu Hong like him? If he wanted to win the beauty's heart, he had to lose weight. At the same time, the news of Nieyu's death spread throughout the Spirit Cloud Mountain range. This news was even more sensational than the death of Mo He and Zhao Wei. Those who knew about this were shocked beyond words. Even a 9-star combat emperor died in the hands of Ma San. Was this person trying to defy the heavens? It was fine if he didn't make a sound, but once he did, he would amaze everyone. No one would have thought that the once cowardly, incompetent, and cowardly person would actually be this powerful. Beside a river, 2 young men stood side by side. Both of them wore black robes and had outstanding looks. Especially with their extraordinary temperament, one could tell that they weren't ordinary people at first glance. The inner palace is going to change. Yes, Ma San appeared out of nowhere and killed Nyeyu. The situation is bound to change. Now, not only us, even Mo Wushan and the other 2 felt threatened by this person. The 2 of them looked at the sky. Their deep eyes seemed to be able to see through the future and see through everything. At the same time, in the sky above a forest deep within the mountain range, 2 men and a woman stood facing each other. Gusts of wind blew past, lifting up their long hair and clothes. From afar, they looked like 3 dazzling suns, making people feel intimidated. Mo Wushan, you went to find him. What do you think of his strength? I didn't fight him head-on. It seems that Ma San has been hiding his strength and biding his time. We have completely ignored him before. So what? He dared to kill my brother. He won't be able to walk out of the Spirit Cloud Mountain range alive. I also think that we should get rid of Ma San. With his character and means, he will definitely be a threat to us in the future. If that's the case, let's join forces. After all, there can only be 3 kings in the inner palace, not 1 more. A cold light flashed across their eyes at the same time. Then they turned around and left. At the same time, someone deliberately spread the news of Nyeyu and the others' deaths to the capital of the Cloud State. As long as there were people would talk about it. The families behind Nyeyu and Mohi Xiaowei and Liangcheng were without a doubt enraged. The old monsters of the four families immediately went to the Yun State Mansion Master to reason with him. However, the Yun State Mansion Master was indifferent to this matter. Helpless, the people of the four families could only bear with it for the time being. Time flew by. 7 months passed. There were only 5 months left before the Battle of the 9 States. In these 7 months, no one went to look for Qin Feiyang. They were all looking for the elixir fire. Even so, Qin Feiyang was often disturbed. These people were the old master, Yan Nanshan, Yin Yuanming, Lu Yun and Ren Wushuang. They would send him messages every now and then. In the beginning, Qin Feiyang patiently explained and comforted them. However, in the end he could not take it anymore. He directly threw the image crystal into his Qingkuan bag and ignored it. He immersed himself in cultivation. After 7 months of hard work, his cultivation finally ushered in a breakthrough. Boom! On this day, his aura, which had been dormant for several months, suddenly exploded. The giant mountain below him could not withstand this aura and instantly shattered. Billowing dust and smoke rose into the sky and covered all directions. The sound of the explosion was deafening. The ferocious beasts nearby were all shocked and fled in panic. Whoosh! Soon, a black figure rushed out from the dust and smoke. It was Qin Feiyang. He stood in the sky like a god of war. The battle aura around him was like a rainbow. His long hair and clothes fluttered in the wind. A terrifying aura rolled in all directions. 8-star combat emperor. Feeling the surging battle aura and power in his body, he could not help but clench his fists tightly. His resolute face was filled with determination. Mother Uncle Yuan, did you see this? I'm not even 20 years old and I've already stepped into the 8-star combat emperor. I'm even faster than my ancestor. Don't worry, I won't let you down. He muttered to himself. His eyes flickered. Then he restrained his aura and pulled Fatso out. Fatso sized up Qin Feiyang for a moment and said with a grin, "Boss, Fat Lord is about to catch up with you. You have to work hard." Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. After carefully observing for a moment, his pupils suddenly shrank. This damn Fatso was already a 7-star combat emperor. However, after thinking about it, he felt relieved. Although Fatso's talent was not as good as his, he had opened the 4th level of the Gate of Potential. Naturally, his cultivation speed was not comparable to his current cultivation speed. Qin Feiyang asked, "Has the white-eyed wolf broken through to the 9-star combat emperor?" 7 months ago, Wolf King was already a 7-star combat emperor. After 7 months of seclusion, Wolf King's cultivation must have had a great breakthrough. Not yet, but it will be soon. I estimate that it will take at most half a month. Fatso said sourly. No matter how hard he tried, he could not catch up with Wolf King. They had both opened the 4th level of the Gate of Potential. Why was the gap so big? You should be satisfied. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and said, "Now, can you tell me why you came to Yunzhou?" Fatso immediately fell silent. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and said lightly, "If you don't want to say it, then forget it." "Boss, Fatso wanted to say something but stopped, as if he was worried about something. Finally, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said solemnly, "Boss, no matter why I came to Yunzhou, you can rest assured that I, Fat Lord, will not harm you." Qin Feiyang believed in this. He smiled faintly and said, "Let's go and ask if there is any news about the alchemy fire." Whoosh! The two of them flew into the depths of the mountain side by side. However, an hour had passed and they did not meet anyone on the way. "That's strange. Where did they go?" Fatso frowned. "That's not strange. Everyone guessed that the alchemy fire was hidden in the depths of the mountain. Now that 7 months have passed, everyone must have gone there." Qin Feiyang used the phantom steps and quickly disappeared into the sky with Fatso. Half a month later, the two of them finally met an inner hall disciple. Coincidentally, it was He-Jo again. At the peak of the mountain ahead, He-Jo was lying on a smooth rock. He had a green foxtail in his mouth and his hands were behind his head. His eyes were slightly closed as he basked in the sun comfortably. This guy really knows how to enjoy himself. Fatso smirked. Qin Feiyong smiled. Whoosh! The two of them flew across the sky toward the peak of the mountain. Someone's there? When the two of them were close to the peak of the mountain, He-jo suddenly opened his eyes. He put his hands on the ground and raised his head to look at Qin Feiyong and Fatso. Why did we meet them again? Immediately, He-jo's expression changed and he got up to escape. Boom! Fatso smirked. His aura surged out and directly imprisoned He-jo there. Whoosh! With a burst of air-rending sound, Qin Feiyong and Fatso landed in front of He-jo. The fatty smiled sinisterly and said, Brat, we meet again. This is fate. Bullshit fate. I'm so unlucky. He-jo cursed in his heart, but his face was full of flattery. He nodded and said, yes, yes, yes. Fate can't be stopped. Since that's the case, we have to make out today. Otherwise, we'll be letting down the fate that God has given us. Don't you think so? Fatso rubbed his hands and grinned. He looked like a weasel with a malicious expression. He-jo's expression changed and he said flatteringly, Senior brother, my sexual orientation is very normal. I don't think we should make out. Fatso's face twitched and he was speechless. Was he trying to say that a certain aspect of him was abnormal? He-jo was very good at reading people's expressions. When he saw Fatso's face darkened, he quickly changed the topic and said with a smile, Senior brothers, if you have any questions, just ask. I promise to tell you everything I know. Fatso was stunned and said helplessly, You're quite sensible. Only those who know what's good for them can live longer. Chapter 521. Qin Feiyong looked at the scoundrel youth in front of him with a trace of admiration in his eyes. Only those who know their place can live longer. This saying was simple and easy to understand. However, there were only a few people who could do it. He-jo was able to do it, which meant that he had a high level of awareness. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed and asked, You didn't tell anyone, did you? This? He-jo's pupils shrunk and a trace of panic appeared on his face. Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows and his expression became unfriendly. Seeing this, He-jo's body tensed up and he hurriedly said, I only told the others that you killed Nyeyu. I didn't say anything else. That's still true. Fatso sneered. Battle chi surged out of his palm and a strand of killing intent spread out. Qin Feiyong stopped Fatso and looked at He-jo with a smile. It doesn't matter. Even if you didn't say anything, others would have guessed it. Thank you for your generosity. He-jo quickly thanked him. Qin Feiyong asked, Is there any news about the alchemy fire? No. Everyone has been looking for it for the past few months, but there's been no news. He-jo shook his head. Qin Feiyong frowned. 7 months had passed. No, including the half a month they had been on the road, 7.5 months had passed. However, there was still no news. Where was the alchemy fire hidden? Fatso was also annoyed. He looked at He-jo and said, Why don't you go and look for it? Me? He-jo smiled bitterly. Why would I go and look for it? I'm just a 3-star combat emperor. There are beasts that are stronger than me in the deeper regions. If I go there, I'll die. Besides, even if I'm lucky enough to find the alchemy fire, the 3 kings won't let me take it out of the spirit cloud mountain. So instead of wasting my time, I'd rather stay here and enjoy the good times. At the same time, I can keep my life. He-jo said. Qin Feiyong looked at He-jo in a new light again. Not only was this fellow treacherous, he was also very smart. Fatso glanced at He-jo, then looked at Qin Feiyong and said, Boss, we can't keep waiting like this. How about we take the initiative to find them? How do we find him? The Spirit Cloud Mountain Range connects the Cloud State and the Spirit State. It's vast and boundless. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack for the two of us. Qin Feiyong said. Beside him, He-jo asked in surprise, Senior brother Ma wants the alchemy fire too? Qin Feiyong nodded. It was not that he wanted it, but that he was determined to get it. He-jo's heart skipped a beat. He smiled obsequiously and said, How about this? I'll help you find out, as long as you let me go. How did you find out? Fatso frowned. Although I don't know where the alchemy fire is, I have connections with many people. As long as the alchemy fire appears, I will definitely receive the news immediately. He-jo patted his chest and said, Qin Feiyong looked at He Jiu, his eyes flickering. After a while he nodded and said, "If you can really find it, I'll let you go." "Thank you, senior brother." He Jiu was overjoyed. Qin Feiyong turned to look at Fatso. Fatso understood and restrained his aura. He Jiu did not dare to delay any longer. He immediately took out an image crystal and contacted his friends and best friends. Qin Feiyong and Fatso retreated to the side and watched silently. One had to admit that He Jiu had a wide network. He contacted more than 50 people. And most of them were stronger than him. Half an hour later, He Jiu finally put away the image crystal and looked at Qin Feiyong and smiled obsequiously. "Now we just need to wait for the news." Qin Feiyong nodded. Since he had nothing to do, he simply sat cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes to cultivate. Another half a month passed like this. There were only 4 months left before the great battle of the 9 states. Early in the morning the horizon was white. The sun rose slowly, and the mountains and rivers were dyed red. Buzz! Suddenly, there was a buzzing sound from the image crystal. Qin Feiyong opened his eyes and looked at He Jiu. Fatso, who was next to him, was also energized. There was a trace of anticipation in his eyes. He Jiu looked at the two of them and took out an image crystal. He poured his battle chi into it and a shadow quickly appeared. It was also a young man in black. He was more than 1.7 meters tall and looked very ordinary. He had a common face. Seeing this person, He Jiu hurriedly asked, "How is it? Any news?" "Yes. The 3 great kings found the alchemy fire in a canyon," the young man in black said excitedly. "Heard about it." Qin Feiyong and Fatso suddenly stood up. He Jiu also breathed a sigh of relief. He was finally safe. Then he became excited and asked, "Where is the alchemy fire now?" The young man in black said, "It's still in the canyon." He Jiu was slightly stunned. He asked suspiciously, "Since the 3 great kings found the alchemy fire, why didn't they take it away?" This was also the question in Qin Feiyong and Fatso's hearts. "There's a War Master level beast in the canyon. It's stronger than the 3 great kings. It won't be easy for them to get it." The young man in black said gloatingly, "Stronger than them?" He Jiu was shocked and said, "Are you sure you're not lying to me? Why would I lie to you? I saw it with my own eyes. The 3 great kings fought with that beast. In the end, they were beaten to the point of vomiting blood in one move. However, the canyon has been sealed by the 3 great kings. Small characters like us can't even think about getting close." The young man in black said with a trace of unwillingness in his tone. Sigh. He Jiu also let out a long sigh. How precious was a 4th-grade alchemy fire. If he could get it, he would definitely soar into the sky. But facing the 3 powerful great kings with his strength, he had no chance at all. Fatso also frowned and asked in a low voice, "Boss, how do we get it?" "Let's go take a look at the canyon first." Qin Feiyong raised his arm and waved his index finger in the air for a while. Then 2 big words formed by battle chi quickly appeared in the air. "Canyon coordinates." Seeing these 2 words, He Jiu looked up at the young man in black and smiled. "Can you give me the coordinates of the canyon?" The young man in black was surprised and asked, "What? You want to get the alchemy fire?" He Jiu smiled bitterly, "I don't have the guts. I just want to join in the fun." The young man in black looked at him suspiciously and said, "I can give you the coordinates. But if you get something good, don't forget about me." Of course. He Jiu nodded. After the young man in black told him the coordinates of the canyon, He Jiu turned off the image crystal, then turned to Qin Feiyong and Fatso and said, "You heard it. Are you sure you want to go? How do we know if there's a chance if we don't go and see?" Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, he opened a portal and walked in without hesitation. Fatso took another step toward the portal, but suddenly stopped in front of it. He turned to look at He Jiu with a smile and said, "It's going to be fun later. Want to go together?" He Jiu shook his head without hesitation. Although after half a month of getting along, Fatso's attitude toward him was much better than before, he still felt that Fatso was up to no good. Fatso was not surprised. He smiled and turned back to enter the portal. In the blink of an eye, Qin Feiyong and Fatso appeared in a strange place. Here there were overlapping mountains and lush ancient trees. Between the mountains there was a river, like a giant python, winding across the north, south, east, and west. At this moment, Qin Feiyong and Fatso were standing on one of the banks of the river. Qin Feiyong looked at the river. The turbulent river water was like a torrent of beasts, setting off huge waves that were more than 10 meters high. And underwater, he could clearly sense the aura of many fierce beasts. Moreover, the weakest was the War Emperor. Even he could not estimate the strongest aura. From this, it was very likely that there were water beasts of the War Master realm lurking in the river. On both sides of the river, there were primordial forests. There were also many powerful fierce beasts' auras inside. To be honest, without the cultivation of a 5-star War Emperor, it would be very difficult to survive here. Where's the canyon? Fatty looked around, and his brows gradually furrowed into a ball. Other than the desolate forest, giant peaks, and fierce beasts, there was no canyon at all. Had he been fooled? Quick, quick, quick! The canyon is over there. Suddenly, a series of shouts rang out. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed. He grabbed Fatso and hid in the nearby forest, whispering, "Restrain your aura." Very quickly, a group of people passed through the forest and flew towards the other side of the river. There were a total of 15 people, all of them young men and women. Some were dressed in white, while others were dressed in black. Their cultivation was all above the 4-star War Emperor. After watching the group of people leave, Fatso retracted his gaze and asked in confusion, "Boss, you have already broken through to the 8-star War Emperor. With the addition of the battle formula and the return formula, you are completely capable of fighting against the 3 great kings. Is there a need to hide like this?" Qin Feiyong said, "Mo Wuxian has been waiting for me. If he knows that I am here, he will definitely come to kill me. Although I am not afraid of him now, this will affect my ability to snatch the pill fire." Fatso suddenly understood. Indeed, under the circumstances where the 3 great kings did not know, it would undoubtedly be easier to snatch the pill fire. "Let's go follow them." Qin Feiyong waved his hand, turned into a ray of light, and rushed out of the forest. Fatso followed closely behind. Very quickly, the two of them crossed the river and entered the forest on the other side. Then, without any hesitation, they followed behind the 15 people and rushed forward silently. Not long after the two of them disappeared on the other side of the river, a young man in black appeared out of thin air. It was Hijio. He. 4th grade pill fire, I will not give it up until the end. Ma-san, this time I would like to see who is the real Oriole. He laughed in a low voice and immediately flew towards the other side of the river. And like Qin Feiyong, he also chose to enter the forest and sneak over quietly. In the forest, Qin Feiyong and Hijio were very careful and did not make any noise. Fatso looked up at the 15 people in the sky and sneered. "You know that someone is blocking the valley, but you still dare to fly over from the sky. What a group of idiots." Qin Feiyong smiled but did not say anything. "Stop right there." Sure enough, about 100 breaths later, a violent shout suddenly exploded in the sky. The 15 people flying in the sky immediately stopped, their eyes full of fear. Qin Feiyong also stopped and looked up. He saw a young man standing in the sky in front of him, glancing at the 15 people. His eyes were extremely unfriendly. Qin Feiyong frowned. He had seen this person before. When he killed Emohi, it was this person who caught Emohi's body. There was no doubt that this person must be Mo Wuxian's man, and he should be blocking the valley, which meant that the valley was in front of them. Chapter 522. At the same time, a dispute broke out in the sky. "Why can't we go to the canyon? The palace master has said that everyone has the right to fight for the alchemy, fire, and auxiliary combat arts. Is there any justice in your actions?" The 15 men were filled with righteous indignation. The 3 kings had gone too far. They had sealed off the canyon. Wasn't this cutting off their hope? You do have the right to fight for it, but do you have the strength to do so? Get lost now, or don't blame me for being merciless. The young man shouted, his eyes flashing with strong killing intent. "We won't leave until we reach the canyon. You are an 8-star combat emperor, but you are willing to be their pawn. Do you have any dignity? I am ashamed of you." The 15 men were seething with anger and their words became more and more intense. As soon as these words were spoken, it undoubtedly infuriated the burly young man. Who would be willing to be someone else's pawn? Who wouldn't want a fourth-grade alchemy fire? But they had to have the strength to do so. Without sufficient strength, if one wanted to survive in the inner hall and go higher and further, then one had to compromise. Otherwise, only death would await. Boom! The young man's body shook, and a majestic aura rushed out, covering the sky and the earth as it pressed down on the 15 people. Immediately, most of the people were frightened and began to retreat involuntarily. Don't retreat. We have to show the 3 kings that we are people with guts. Yes, for our dignity, we have to fight to the end even if we are like moths to a flame. The 4 young men shouted. They were all 6-star combat emperors, 2 levels lower than the young man. However, they were not afraid at all. Their aura soared and they rushed toward the young man. In the forest. Qin Feiyong stopped again. He raised his head and looked at the 4 people in surprise. Unyielding, and unforgiving. Who would have thought that there would be such guts in Yunzhou? It's all for the alchemy fire. If it was something worthless, do you think they would dare to fight? Their current actions have nothing to do with courage at all. At best, they're just acting out of desperation. The fatty said in disdain as his lips curled into a mocking smile. Even so, your courage is commendable. Qin Feiyong's eyes flickered as he spoke. Boom! Suddenly, he raised his hand and pointed in the air. An invisible force turned into a world-destroying dragon that roared into the sky and drowned the young man in an instant. Immediately, a blood-curdling scream resounded through the sky. The young man died on the spot, and his blood dyed the sky red. Whoosh! After killing the young man, Qin Feiyong did not stay any longer. He grabbed Fatso and shot forward. Fatso frowned. Boss, why are you doing this? Why? Of course, it's to make it easier for me to snatch the alchemy fire and create some trouble for the 3 kings. Qin Feiyong sneered. Although the 3 great kings were powerful, they were still far from being able to scheme against him. High in the sky, the 15 people looked at each other. What was going on? Who killed the young man? Whoosh! When they came back to their senses, they lowered their heads and scanned the forest below, their eyes full of surprise. Who was it? The young man was an 8-star combat emperor, but he was killed in one move. Who was so powerful? Forget it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Let's go. That's right. With the help of this mysterious expert, we will definitely be able to enter the canyon. Follow us and rush in. The 4 young men roared and turned into streaks of light as they charged forward. The other 11 people looked at each other, gritted their teeth and followed them. At the same time, in the forest below, He Jiu was hiding in a bush, his face full of suspicion. Who could it be? Could it be them? Yes, it must be Ma San and Zhang Lu. Only they could kill an 8-star combat emperor easily. In other words, the 2 of them were in front of him. Now, as long as he followed the 2 of them and was careful, he would not be in any danger. He Jiu chuckled and followed them silently. At the same time, a few miles ahead there was a huge canyon. However, in the void 1,000 meters away from the canyon, there were more than 30 young men and women standing against the wind. Their auras were extremely powerful. The lady in the black dress and the others were among them. However, at this moment, these people were looking in the direction of the young man, their eyes full of suspicion. At the same time, in the northwest direction of the canyon there was a giant mountain. This mountain was about 1,000 meters away from the canyon. At this moment, 4 young men and a young woman were standing on the peak of the giant mountain, looking in the direction of the young man. Their eyes were shining with cold light. The auras of these 5 people were unfathomable. The young woman said, "Mo Wushan, is it Ma San? In the entire inner palace, only the 5 of us and Nye Yu can kill Yuan Wu in one move. Nye Yu is dead and we are all here. Who else could it be other than Ma San?" Mo Wushan clenched his fists and his eyes were as sharp as blades. The young woman frowned and said, "I didn't expect him to receive the news so quickly. I was afraid that he wouldn't come." Mo Wushan smiled coldly and looked at the 2 young men in black beside him. He said, "You 2 go and have a look." Us? The 2 of them were stunned and frowned. The young woman said, "If you don't go, do the 3 of us have to go?" Just go, don't talk so much nonsense. The third person said. This was a burly man. His body was 8 feet tall like a small giant, and his body was full of explosive power. This burly man, Mo Wuxian and the young woman were the 3 kings of the inner palace. As for the 2 young men in black, they were 9-star combat emperors and their positions in the inner palace were slightly lower than Mo Wuxian and the other 2. Seeing the attitude of Mo Wuxian and the other 2, the 2 of them looked at each other and a cold light flashed in their eyes. However, they hid it well and Mo Wuxian and the other 2 did not notice it. One of them looked at Mo Wuxian and the other 2 and asked, "What should we do with the 15 people?" "Kill," the burly man said without hesitation, revealing a ruthless and cold aura. Swoosh! The 2 of them did not hesitate and soared into the sky, flying towards the 15 people. After distancing themselves from Mo Wuxian and the other 2, the young man in black on the left said, "Lu Yunfeng, they are sending us to our deaths." "I know." The young man in black on the right nodded. A cold light flashed in his eyes and he whispered, "Pei Sanshi, we can't go on like this, we must fight back." The young man on the left asked, "How do we fight back?" Lu Yunfeng said, "Ma San was able to kill Nieyu. It is enough to show that he is not weaker than us. Let's go and find him to cooperate." "Your idea is good, but it is not feasible. No matter how strong Ma San is, can he be stronger than a battle master? If we work with him rashly, we will definitely be dragged into the water. Let's endure it for now. When we enter the battle master, there will be plenty of opportunities to settle the score with Mo Wuxian and the others," Pei Sanshi said with a trace of murderous intent in his eyes. Hearing this, Lu Yunfeng frowned but did not say anything. After all, Pei Sanshi's concerns were not without reason. "Oh no! Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi are flying towards us. They must be here to kill us." In the sky, when the 15 people saw Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi, their expressions changed. They stopped in unison and glanced at the forest below from the corner of their eyes. Who knew if that mysterious expert would help them again? Whoosh! Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi stopped in front of the 15 people. Pei Sanshi said in a deep voice, "Mo Wuxian and the others asked us to kill you. If you don't want to die, leave immediately." "Senior brother Pei, senior brother Lu. Yuan Wu is Mo Wuxian's lackey. It is reasonable for him to listen to Mo Wuxian's orders. But you are all 9-star combat emperors. Why do you have to listen to them? What right do they have to order you? Senior brothers, wake up. Even if you help them, you will not get any benefits in the end." The 15 of them tried their best to persuade him. The 2 were silent. How could they not know this? But Mo Wuxian and the other 2's strength were in front of them. What could they do? Lu Yunfeng sighed deeply and waved his hand. "Go quickly. The alchemy fire is not something you can touch. It is not worth it to lose your life. What are you 2 hesitating for? Do it quickly." The strong man's voice sounded from the mountain peak. The 15 people were terrified. "Go quickly." Pei Sanshi roared at the 15 people. The 15 people did not dare to hesitate any longer. They turned around and ran for their lives. Pei Sanshi and Pei Sanshi were relieved. It was not that they had a benevolent heart. They did this to win people's hearts and make plans for the future. Because the lowest cultivation level of these 15 people was a 4-star combat emperor. Although they were not as strong as them, they were still the elites of the inner palace. In time, when they broke through to the War Master and called out, these 15 people would definitely submit to them and follow their lead. At that time, they would naturally have the ability to fight against Mo Wuxian and the other 2. This scene was clearly seen by Qin Feiyang and Pei Sanshi, who were hiding in the forest below. Fatso's eyes flashed and he whispered, "Boss, these 2 people can be used." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and shook his head. People who can reach this level are not stupid. Suddenly, Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi rushed down and flew towards the forest. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang and Fatso quickly retracted their aura and hid in a 2-meter-tall bush. After entering the forest, Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi split up and searched the forest. A few breaths passed. Pei Sanshi's gaze suddenly fell on the bush. His eyes flashed. "Have we been discovered?" Fatso's body tensed up and he did not dare to breathe. But after a while, Pei Sanshi retracted his gaze and looked at Lu Yunfeng, who was not far away. "I did not find Ma San." Lu Yunfeng glanced around and shook his head. I did not find any trace of him either. He should have left. Whoosh! Then, the two gathered together. Pei Sanshi whispered in Lu Yunfeng's ear. Immediately, Lu Yunfeng looked meaningfully at the shrubs, then soared into the sky with Pei Sanshi and flew towards the giant peak. They did not discover us even though they are so close? Chapter 523. No. I'm sure that our whereabouts have been exposed. Qin Feiyang followed him out of the bushes, his eyes gleaming. If that's the case, why didn't they make a move? Is it because they don't have the confidence to kill us and don't want to alert the enemy, so they went to ask Mo Wuxian and the other two for help? Fatso was surprised. I don't think so. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Fatso frowned and suddenly his eyes lit up. He said in surprise, could it be that they are also very dissatisfied with Mo Wuxian and the other two, so they pretended not to notice us? Qin Feiyang said, you're not stupid. They are actually trying to be friendly with us. Friendly? If that's the case, why didn't they talk to us face to face? Maybe we can cooperate? Fatso was puzzled. Because they don't dare. Mo Wuxian and the other two are all battle masters. They don't believe that I can defeat them, so they don't dare to make this bet. However, they don't want to offend me, so they chose to ignore it. Of course, they also have their own plans. When I arrive at the canyon, I will definitely fight with Mo Wuxian and the other two, and they can find an opportunity to snatch the alchemy fire. And if our whereabouts are exposed now, with Mo Wuxian and the other two above us, they won't have the slightest chance. Qin Feiyang said. Tsk. They are indeed a bunch of cunning old foxes. Fatso was speechless. Yes, these people are not simple. The battle of the 9 states may be a tough battle. I just don't know how the 2 kings of our spiritual state are doing. Qin Feiyang whispered with a trace of worry between his brows. He had interacted with Dong Zhengyang before, and he was not a simple character. However, he didn't even know the names of the other 2 kings, so he really couldn't judge. What are you afraid of? With Fat Lord and Brother Wolf helping you, people like Mo Wuxian are a piece of cake. Fatso laughed. Qin Feiyang glanced at him, and couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face. That was right. In terms of strength, the white-eyed wolf would definitely surpass everyone else in the future. When it came to scheming, he and Fatso had never been afraid of anyone. What was there to worry about? In an instant, Qin Feiyang's heart calmed down. He raised his head to look at Lu Yunfeng and Fatso before continuing to rush forward with Fatso. At the peak of the giant mountain, Lu Yunfeng and the other two landed in front of Mo Wuxian and the other two. Slap! Without saying a word, the brawny man stepped forward and slapped Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi. The two of them touched their burning faces, and a strong anger rose in their hearts as they glared at the burly man. I told you to kill them, but you let them go on your own accord. Now you even dare to glare at me. Do you want to die? Do you want me to fulfill your wish now? The brawny man roared angrily, his body full of hostility. Lu Yunfeng suppressed the anger in his heart and said, Senior Brother Yan, we are all fellow disciples of the same sect. Why do you have to kill us all? Bullshit. How can trash like them be worthy of being our fellow disciples? Not to mention them, even the 2 of you are only worthy of being a dog by our side. What is it? You're not convinced? The brawny man spoke viciously as he stared at the 2 of them with a face full of ridicule and disdain. I don't dare. Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi lowered their heads, but their hearts were already filled with anger. The young woman glanced at the 2 of them, her eyes flashing slightly as she smiled and said, Lu Yunfeng, Pei Sanshi, did you secretly let those 15 people go because you wanted to make plans for the future? As soon as these words were spoken, Mo Wuxian and the brawny man's gazes immediately darkened. Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshi's pupils also constricted, and a trace of panic crawled up their faces. Fortunately, he had his head lowered and was not discovered by the 3 of them. Senior Sister Pan, we definitely don't have such thoughts. We just don't want to kill the innocent. Senior Sister Pan, Senior Brother Mo, Senior Brother Yan, please take a look. The 2 of them hurriedly said. Is that so? The young woman looked at the 2 of them playfully. Lu Yunfeng said, we are speaking the truth. Heaven and earth can testify. Don't think that we will believe you just because you say so. However, it doesn't matter even if you are planning for the future. After all, ants will always be ants. Even if we give you a chance, you won't be able to do anything. Speak, did you find Ma-san? Mo Wushan said indifferently, his expression full of contempt. No. Maybe because he saw us go, he slipped away. Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sanshur said. So that's all there is to it. The brawny man smiled disdainfully as he looked at Mo Wushan and said, right now, killing Ma-san is secondary. The main thing is to think of a way to kill that beast first. The young woman also nodded. Mo Wushan pondered for a moment and nodded, all right, let's kill it first. However, when we fight with it, we must be careful of Ma-san's sneak attack. I'm sure he won't give up just like that. The brawny man said. I think you're overthinking it. Mo Wushan raised his eyebrows. Don't misunderstand, I don't mean to offend you. I just want to say that Ma-san hasn't reached the battle sect yet. He won't dare to sneak attack us. Because without us, he won't be able to kill that beast, let alone get the alchemy fire. So when we're fighting with that beast, we can completely ignore him. Only when the battle is over, we have to be careful of his sneak attack. The brawny man spoke with assurance. His rough face was brimming with confidence. Mo Wushan thought carefully and nodded, that makes sense. All right, prepare for the team battle immediately. The young woman looked at Mo Wushan and said, you make the arrangements. All right. Later, the three of us will restrain it from the front. Lu Yunfeng, Pei Sanshur. The two of you will lead the 8-star combat emperors and 7-star combat emperors to assist from the side. Before the battle, I will give you enough supreme-grade pills. Don't be stingy. Once you're injured, take it immediately. As for those below 6-star combat emperors, they're just cannon fodder. They won't be of much use in the battle. Just let them monitor the surroundings. If you find Ma-san's whereabouts, send out a signal immediately. Mo Wushan said. The brawny man, the young woman Lu Yunfeng, and Pei Sanshur nodded with a dignified expression. Pei Sanshur shouted, 8-star combat emperors, 7-star combat emperors, gather here immediately. The rest of you stay where you are. Whoosh! Immediately, 10 figures flew towards the giant peak. In the forest below, Qin Feiyong stopped and looked at the peak of the mountain in surprise. It seems that Mo Wushan and the others are there. But why did they ask the 8-star combat emperors and 7-star combat emperors to gather? Fatso's face was full of suspicion. Suddenly, his expression changed and he said in surprise, could it be that they're here to encircle and annihilate us? Is that so? Qin Feiyong frowned. His eyes suddenly lit up and he said, they should be preparing to kill the beast in the canyon. Don't dawdle, let's go to the canyon quickly. Whoosh! With a wave of his hand, he rolled up Fatso and used the phantom steps to speed through the forest. Without the 7-star combat emperors and 8-star combat emperors, he didn't hold back his speed. Because those 6-star combat emperors couldn't detect him at all. Dozens of breaths passed. Qin Feiyong finally saw the canyon. The canyon was very big, occupying half a mile. Behind it and on its left and right sides were giant peaks that reached the clouds. The entrance in front was quite wide and was covered with weeds and shrubs. But because it was too low, they couldn't see the situation inside. Whoosh! Qin Feiyong took Fatso to the back of the canyon and flew silently to the peak of the mountain. They lay down in the weeds at the edge of the cliff and looked down. Immediately, their pupils shrank. At the bottom of the canyon there was a giant creature. Its body was 50 to 60 meters long, and its whole body was as red as fire. Its 2 eyes were bigger than millstones and looked as if they were made of molten lava. They were emitting a terrifying and ominous light. Ju, it's actually a fire dragon. Looking at the gigantic creature, the fatty stuttered, his eyes filled with fear. A fire dragon was a flood dragon. According to legend, once a flood dragon became a god and passed the divine tribulation, it would become a real divine dragon. It would soar beyond the 9 heavens and have the power to destroy the world. Although the fire dragon in front of them hadn't reached the legendary realm, its aura was like a vast ocean that couldn't be seen through. Boss, are you sure we want to fight with it? Fatso's face was pale and he was trembling. Qin Feiyong said, it's not us who want to fight with it, it's Mo Wushan and the others. We just need to watch the show. To be honest, he didn't want to fight with the fire dragon. Because judging from its aura, this guy's cultivation was not inferior to the Lu family's ancestor. One had to know that old monster Lu was a 2-star combat ancestor. This beast's cultivation was very likely to be a 3-star combat ancestor or even a 4-star combat ancestor. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, the fatty also let out a heartfelt sigh of relief. He then asked, "Then where is the pill fire?" Qin Feiyang scanned the fire flood dragon's surroundings, and a suspicious look gradually crept onto his face. There was no sign of the alchemy fire near the fire dragon. There was also no iron box or anything like that. Could it be somewhere else? His gaze shifted away again. But in the end, he searched more than half of the canyon, including the cliffs on both sides. But there was no sign of the alchemy fire. Strange. Qin Feiyang frowned. If Mo Wuxian and the others could find the alchemy fire, it meant that the alchemy fire wasn't hidden very well. But why couldn't they find it? Whoosh! At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Qin Feiyang looked up and saw more than 10 figures rushing out from the peak of the giant mountain. They then rushed towards the canyon. Qin Feiyang looked at them one by one. There were a total of 15 people. The leaders were Mo Wuxian and the other 2. Next were Lu Yunfeng, Pei Sancher, and the woman in the black dress. The last 9 people were all 7-star combat emperors. Fatso scanned the 15 people and asked, "Who is Mo Wuxian?" Half a year ago, when Mo Wuxian went to the valley to kill Qin Feiyang, Fatso was at the ancient castle, so he didn't know what Mo Wuxian looked like. Qin Feiyang said, "It's the white-haired young man who is leading them." Fatso looked and said in surprise, "He is also an alchemist?" Mo Wuxian was wearing a long white robe. Coupled with his long white hair, there was an invisible air of transcendence. "His mental strength is probably not low," Qin Feiyang whispered. The personal disciple of the Yun State Prefecture Master, the number 1 person in the inner hall, how could he be a simple person? No matter how strong his mental strength is, can it be compared to yours? Fatso laughed. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He said in a low voice, "Don't talk. It looks like they are going to attack soon." Chapter 524. Mo Wuxian and the rest of the 15 quickly arrived above the canyon. 3 great kings, 2 9-star combat emperors, 1 8-star combat emperor, and 9 7-star combat emperors. However, when they looked at the fire dragon in the canyon, their faces were heavy. Suddenly, the 15 of them raised their eyebrows and scanned the canyon in bewilderment. "Where's the pill fire? Where did you hide the pill fire?" Finally, the 15 of them looked at the fire dragon in unison, their faces full of anger. "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were bewildered. Swish! At the same time, the fire dragon also raised its head and looked at Mo Wuxian and the others, its huge eyes filled with a shocking murderous light. "Speak quickly. Otherwise, I'll peel off your skin, pull out your tendons, chop you into pieces, and throw you into a frying pan," the brawny man said sternly. "Puny human, do you have the ability? There's no harm in this emperor telling you. The pill fire is now in this emperor's body. If you have the ability, come and take it." The fire dragon glanced at the 15 of them, its eyes full of contempt. "What?" Everyone's expression changed. "You actually swallowed the pill fire. Damn evil creature, spit it out." Mo Wuxian was furious. As an alchemist, other than the pill formula, what was more important than the pill fire? So this time he was determined to get the pill fire. "You've entered this emperor's stomach, and you want this emperor to spit it out? Are you joking?" The fire dragon looked at Mo Wuxian mockingly. 1 man and 1 beast confronted each other, and the atmosphere gradually froze. This time, Fatso retracted his gaze, turned to look at Qin Feiyang, and asked suspiciously, "Boss, why did the fire dragon swallow the pill fire?" Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and said in a low voice, "It is said that the fire dragon is born with the ability to control flames, and the energy of the pill fire is of great help to its cultivation." Fatty said, "Then doesn't that mean we have to kill it to get the alchemy fire?" Qin Feiyang nodded. This fire dragon was also smart, it actually swallowed it directly into its stomach. In this way, whether it was Mo Wuxian or them, the difficulty of snatching it would undoubtedly increase. What are you waiting for? Let's kill it, the brawny man said sharply. Yes, the young woman nodded and said, after we kill it, we can cut open its stomach and take it out. Hearing this, Mo Wuxian's eyes were filled with killing intent as he shouted, attack! The auras of the three martial emperors exploded like volcanoes. Myriad manifestations of ice. The young woman stretched out a slender finger and pointed it in the air. Immediately, streaks of frost gushed out from her fingertip. Following closely, the ice and frost flowed upwards like a waterfall and gathered above the young woman's head, forming a huge vortex. Woo-woo! The cold wind howled. Cold air spread out in all directions, covering the sky and covering the earth. It was as if winter had arrived in this world, and the cold air was piercing to the bone. 7 killing formula. In the meantime, Mo Wuxian's body was also shrouded in blood energy. His entire aura changed drastically. If it was said that he was an otherworldly god before, then he was now a demon bathed in blood. Heaven Wind technique. Meanwhile, the brawny man roared, and a yellow battle chi gushed out from his body. At this moment, he looked more burly and stronger than before. His bulging muscles were filled with explosive power. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. The three of them activated their battle arts, and the terrifying aura shook the void and the earth. Their strength is not simple. Looking at Mo Wuxian and the other two, Fatso's pupils constricted, and he was full of fear. No matter how strong they are no match for the fire dragon. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed. He had been paying attention to the fire dragon. In fact, the fire dragon could have taken the initiative to stop the three of them from using their battle arts. But the fire dragon only looked at the three of them and did not make any moves. Its eyes were still full of contempt. This was enough to show that it was full of confidence. Are you done? If you are, hurry up and don't delay my sleep. As expected, the fire dragon did not put Mo Wuxian and the others in its eyes. In the face of such naked contempt, Mo Wuxian and the other two could not help but grit their teeth. Heaven Wind technique battle armor. The brawny man dived and took the lead to launch a strong attack. The battle chi around his body also condensed into a set of yellow armor that covered his entire body. Although the armor was formed by battle chi, it was thick and sturdy, as if it was made of divine iron. No matter how thick your skin is, it can't resist my tail. The fire dragon looked at the brawny man with contempt and raised its huge tail to slap the brawny man. Don't be arrogant. The brawny man frowned and threw a punch at the huge tail. Boom! When the two met, the mountains and rivers changed color. The terrifying fluctuations of the battle were like a torrent of beasts, destroying everything in all directions. The huge canyon was razed to the ground in an instant. Qin Feiyong also brought Fatso and hid in the ancient castle. There was a trace of fear in their eyes. The battle between battlemasters could easily destroy mountains and rivers. It was too terrifying and they could not get too close. Outside, billowing dust and smoke covered the sky and earth. In the dust and smoke, the brawny man's fist and the fire dragon's huge tail collided tightly, and they were in a stalemate. But the stalemate did not last long. About 3 breaths. Poof! The brawny man's face suddenly turned pale. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. His fist was torn open. Crack! The armor on his body also began to shatter. With just this bit of strength, you dare to challenge this emperor? Aren't you courting death? You should have realized that I didn't kill you last time. Unfortunately, you are too ignorant. You still want the alchemy fire. Do you have the ability to do so? Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish today. The fire dragon smiled disdainfully and raised its thick tail. With an ear-piercing whistling sound, it slapped the brawny man again. At this moment, the void was distorted and deformed. One could imagine how shocking the strength was. Humph! I was only testing your strength last time. Now, I'll let you see my true strength. Heaven Wind technique battle shield. The brawny man's hair fluttered in anger. Khaki battle chi emerged and the broken armor was instantly repaired. At the same time, a 2-meter-tall battle shield was condensed in front of him. It emitted a heavy aura. The brawny man grabbed the battle shield and did not advance. Instead, he retreated and collided with the giant tail again. Clang! The giant tail hit the battle shield and an earth-shattering sound tore the brawny man's eardrums on the spot. 2 arrows of blood shot out. At the same time, the brawny man's body suddenly sank. Not only were his internal organs injured, the muscles on his arms were also torn. Cracks also appeared on the battle shield. Roar! Seeing that the battle shield was about to shatter, the brawny man bared his teeth and let out a beast-like roar. The khaki battle chi broke out of his body like a tide and rushed toward the battle shield. Immediately, the battle shield began to repair bit by bit. The brawny man also stabilized his sinking body. Although he was seriously injured, he still blocked the power of the giant tail. He can't block it for long. Quick! 7 kill cut, blood blade. Seeing this, Mo Wuxian's gaze darkened as killing intent surged from his body. In an instant, it condensed into a blood-red blade. Kill! Following his angry roar, the blood-red blade cut through the sky and slashed towards the head of the fire dragon. The killing intent released by the blood blade was incomparably shocking, filling every corner of this world. Ice Sky Thousand Elephants first move. Ice Elephant's fury. The young woman also shouted in a low voice. Moo! The roar of a barbarian elephant sounded from the vortex above her head. Immediately after, a giant elephant rushed out from the vortex. Its body was dozens of meters long like a huge mountain. Its entire body seemed to be condensed from ice crystal clear. Its ferocious might shocked everyone. The moment the giant elephant appeared, it immediately roared towards the head of the fire dragon. Beast be destroyed. At the same time, Lu Yunfeng and the others also attacked with all their might, evolving all kinds of supreme battle arts as they charged towards the fire dragon. For a moment, in this place all kinds of battle chi streaked across the sky. The power of the various battle arts was earth-shattering. The mountains and rivers within a mile of land collapsed one after another, as if doomsday had arrived. The fierce beasts in this area ushered in a devastating disaster, and those who were hiding in the distance, such as He Jiao, who wanted to fish in troubled waters, all changed color when they saw this situation. They turned around and fled for their lives. A group of ants want to overturn the sky? The fire dragon glanced at those battle arts with disdain in its eyes. The next moment, the giant tail that was pressing down on the shield suddenly rose up and swept towards the battle arts. Don't even think about it. But at the same time, the brawny man roared. The shield in his hand instantly dissipated, and then he stretched out his hands and firmly hugged the giant tail. However, the power of the fire dragon was too terrifying. He couldn't hold the giant tail at all. But he didn't panic. There was even a confident smile on his face. Now I'll let you see the true power of the Heaven Dipper technique. Heaven Dipper technique, petrification. After that, the brawny man's khaki battle chi poured out of his chi si and rushed towards the fire flood dragon's huge tail as fast as a sudden clap of thunder. Immediately, an amazing scene appeared. The battle chi lingered on the fire dragon's giant tail and quickly solidified into stone. In the blink of an eye, the fire dragon's giant tail was completely petrified, and this petrification was still spreading to the fire dragon's body. It was very fast. At this moment, a trace of panic finally crept into the fire dragon's eyes. The blood in its body surged, and the battle chi surged wildly. Crack! Following a series of deafening screeches, the rocks covering its body began to crack open like a spiderweb. It turned out to be just this. Immediately, the fire dragon's eyes were full of disdain. It was ready to shatter all the stones covering its body in one go. Is that so? But the brawny man sneered. As the khaki battle chi continued to pour in, those cracks quickly healed, and half of the fire dragon's body had been petrified. Damn human, what did you do to me? The fire dragon roared. This is the ultimate mystery of the Heaven Dipper technique. Whether it's a beast or a human, they can all be petrified. Although it can't completely petrify your body, with this layer of stone armor covering you, it's difficult for you to move. The brawny man sneered. Swish! This time, in a broken deep ditch below, 2 figures appeared out of thin air. It was Qin Feiyong and Fatso. The two also heard the brawny man's voice and curiously wanted to come out to take a look. Chapter 525. The fire dragon was really petrified? This burly man's heaven dipper art was too terrifying. Fatso's eyes flashed and he whispered, "Boss, this is a good opportunity." The fire dragon was petrified and was already at the end of its tether. As long as they seized the opportunity, it would be easy to obtain the pill fire. However, hearing Fatso's words, Qin Feiyong shook his head. "What's wrong?" Fatso was puzzled. Qin Feiyong said, "The fire dragon is not so easy to deal with. Let's retreat a little further and wait for an opportunity to move." And Fatso was surprised. In such a situation, could the fire dragon turn the tables? However, the fatty didn't raise any questions. He followed Qin Feiyong and silently retreated into the distance. High up in the sky, the terrifying aura shook the clouds. Mo Wuxian, the young woman, Lu Yunfeng and the rest's battle arts fell rapidly like meteors, exuding the power of destruction. Looking at the fire dragon again, other than its head, its entire body had been petrified. After 3 breaths, even its head was petrified. It was originally a living creature, but now it had turned into a stone statue. It was also at this moment Mo Wuxian shouted to the burly man, "Old Yen, get out of the way," because the battle arts had already arrived. If the burly man did not leave, he would definitely be affected. Whoosh! The burly man looked up at the battle arts and his pupils suddenly constricted. He did not dare to hesitate and let go of the fire dragon's huge tail and quickly retreated. Boom! Just as the burly man left, Mo Wuxian and the rest's battle arts drowned the fire dragon. Immediately, the rumbling sound was deafening. Roar! At the same time, a painful wail resounded through the sky. Following closely, the fire dragon's huge body was accompanied by a loud bang and smashed into the ground below. Whoosh! The burly man soared into the sky and landed beside Mo Wuxian and the young woman. He sneered, "So it's only as a..." The young woman smiled and said, "It's all thanks to you." Mo Wuxian nodded. If the burly man had not petrified the fire dragon, their battle arts would not have been able to hit it. Haha, the burly man could not help but laugh proudly. "Look at how proud you are." The young woman rolled her eyes at him. With a wave of her jade-like hand, a gale suddenly rose between heaven and earth, blowing away the dust and smoke below. Immediately, a huge sinkhole entered everyone's line of sight. The fire flood dragon was lying in the sinkhole. The stone armor on his body had already been shattered, and his entire body was riddled with wounds. Blood flowed incessantly and dyed the surrounding ground red. The muscular man glanced at the fire dragon, then turned to Mo Wuxian and said, "The fire dragon has been dealt with. Don't forget your promise to us." "Don't worry, I will definitely help you refine pills for 3 years for free," Mo Wuxian said as a rare bright smile appeared on his cold face. "So they've already reached an agreement." Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sancher looked at each other, and a cold light flashed in the depths of their eyes. Mo Wuxian seemed to have sensed something as he turned his head to look at Lu Yunfeng and the other two. The smile on his face instantly disappeared. Both of them felt a chill in their hearts. Could it be that Mo Wuxian sensed it? Just when the two of them were in a panic, Mo Wuxian finally looked away. He glanced at the woman in black dress and the others and said lightly, "You stay here and pay attention to Ma San's movements." "All right." The woman in black dress and the others replied. Lu Yunfeng and the other two quickly nodded, but their hearts were filled with helplessness. It seemed that they had no fate with the alchemy fire. Immediately after, Mo Wuxian, the young woman, and the muscular man swooped down and flew towards the fire dragon. The young woman suddenly said, "I feel that we can't keep Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sancher alive." Mo Wuxian and the muscular man looked at her in surprise. The young woman said, "I heard that the two of them are about to break through. Once they break through, they will be the biggest threat to us." The muscular man said, "I also heard about it." Mo Wuxian's eyes flashed and said, "They are indeed a threat, but we can't kill them." "Why?" The two of them were puzzled. Mo Wuxian said, "Their talents are very high. Although they didn't receive Master's favor, the Grand Hall Master likes them very much. Unlike the other disciples, it doesn't matter if they are killed." The two of them nodded. What he said was not without reason. After all, there were too many people now. If they really killed Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sancher, when the news reached the ears of the Grand Hall Master, The Grand Hall Master would definitely seek an explanation from the palace chief. Although the palace chief might not punish them severely, his attitude towards them would definitely change. The muscular man's eyes suddenly lit up as he said in a low voice, "Why don't we use Ma-san to get rid of them?" Although I haven't interacted much with Ma-san from the past few situations, his mind is even more flexible than Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sancher. It's basically impossible to use him. Actually, you don't need to be in such a hurry to get rid of Lu Yunfeng and Pei Sancher. So what if they step into the War Master? They only have 2 people but we have 3. Furthermore, we are all veteran War Master S. Why would we be afraid of these 2 newly advanced War Master S? Moreover, aren't we about to break through? When we break through to the 2-star War Master, these 2 trash will be even less of a concern, Mo Wuxian said in disdain. That makes sense. The 2 of them nodded and dispelled this thought. While they were talking, the 3 of them entered the deep pit and landed in front of the fire dragon. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and Pei Sancher were lying in a patch of grass in the distance. Seeing this, Fatso immediately became anxious and said in a low voice, "Boss, why aren't you making a move?" "Don't worry," Qin Feiyang whispered, his gaze extremely calm. He did not believe that the fire dragon would be defeated so easily. The reason was that the fire dragon had yet to activate its battle soul. If it was said that the fire dragon did not have a battle soul, he would definitely not believe it. Because the fire dragon was already considered a top-notch beast that stood at the peak of the pyramid. This kind of beast's talent was not inferior to human geniuses. Activating the battle soul was a sure thing. And even if it was petrified before, the fire dragon did not reveal its battle soul. This meant that it was completely confident in its own defense and strength. Most importantly, according to historical records, the defense of a beast like the flood dragon was even more terrifying than the black stone ape. As expected, just as Mo Wuxian and the other 2 were about to completely end the fire dragon's life, the dying fire dragon suddenly raised its huge tail and swept it towards the 3 of them. This unforeseen event came too suddenly. Mo Wuxian and the other 2 were completely caught off guard. Bang bang bang. Ah! Accompanied by 3 painful screams, the 3 of them were sent flying on the spot. Blood spurted out from their mouths and countless bones in their bodies were broken. How is this possible? There's actually such a strong power. The 3 of their pupils constricted, filled with disbelief. At the same time, Lu Yunfeng and the others above also changed their expressions. After suffering such a serious blow, it was still able to counterattack. Wasn't this beast's skin too thick? Boom! An astonishing ferocious aura roared out from the fire dragon's body. The next moment, its huge body rose with flames that were dozens of feet high as it flew out of the deep pit. It glanced at Mo Wuxian and the other 2 with extreme contempt in its eyes. "Just you little ants want to kill this emperor? You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Next, prepare to tremble." The fire dragon soared into the sky. Its bloody giant tail was like a long whip that could destroy the world as it swept towards Lu Yunfeng and the others. The wind was ear-piercing. Not good. Lu Yunfeng and the others' expressions changed as they turned around and fled without hesitation. But one had to know. The fire dragon was a super fierce beast of the War Master level, and they were only War Emperor. The difference in speed between the 2 was like heaven and earth. How could they possibly escape? The 9 7-star War Emperor were the first to be killed by the giant tail. There was no suspense. Under the crushing pressure of the giant tail, their bodies were like withered trees that couldn't withstand a single blow. For a moment, high up in the sky, flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Broken corpses and broken arms shot everywhere. Mournful screams resounded through the sky. Damn it, why is it still so strong? Lu Yunfeng, Pei Sancher, and the black dress woman were so scared that their souls almost left their bodies when they saw this scene. They ran away without holding back. However, not only was he unable to pull away from the fire dragon, he was even getting closer and closer. At this moment, Mo Wuxian and the other 2 finally stabilized their bodies. Looking at the scene above them, their eyes were extremely gloomy. The brawny man asked, "To save or not to save?" "Of course we have to. The fire dragon is too strong. If they are all killed, we will have no hope of snatching the pill fire," Mo Wuxian said in a deep voice. "Then let's do it." the young woman said. The cold air broke out of her body and condensed a giant vortex above her head. Mo Wushan's entire body was also surrounded by killing intent. I'll go first. The brawny man shouted in a low voice and turned into a stream of light, shooting towards the sky. The armor on his body and the shield in his hand also appeared once again. Bastard, give me your life. As he approached the fire dragon, he roared towards the sky and rushed forward. But the strange thing was that he didn't rush towards the fire dragon. Instead, he rushed into the clouds. Did he fail? Fatso, who was in the distance, was stunned. That won't happen. Qin Feiyong shook his head. How could an expert who had reached the level of War Master fail? It was very likely that this person was preparing some big killing move. Just as this thought appeared in his mind, clang! A thunderous sound suddenly exploded between heaven and earth. Heavenly Dipper battlesword slash. Next, the brawny man let out an angry roar as his battle chi surged out like a wave. In an instant, it condensed into a huge yellow sword. The huge sword was dozens of meters long. It was like a heaven-splitting divine sword that lay horizontally above the 9 heavens. Its entire body was shining brightly, emitting a thick aura. The moment the huge sword appeared, without the slightest delay, it immediately slashed towards the fire dragon. Streaks of apocalyptic light swept across the sky. Boom! Puff! The huge sword whistled and slashed onto the fire dragon's huge tail. A half-meter deep wound actually appeared on the fire dragon's huge tail. Blood flowed like a waterfall, dyeing the void red. Oh! Immediately, the fire dragon wailed in pain. But at the same time, it opened its wide mouth and a surge of battle chi surged out. Like a torrent of beasts, it collided with the huge sword. Clang! The huge sword shattered on the spot. The brawny man's 8 feet tall body also trembled violently. Blood spurted from his mouth and his face was as pale as paper. Lowly human, you actually dare to hurt this emperor. Die! When the fire dragon saw the wound on its huge tail, it immediately became ferocious. Chapter 526. Bastard, go to hell! But at this moment, Mo Wushan and the young woman roared at the same time. Above Mo Wushan's head, there were 7 blood-red blades floating. Each blood blade was dozens of feet long. Blood light shot out in all directions, dyeing the sky red. The whirlpool above the young woman's head was even more astonishing. An ice phoenix actually soared out. It flapped its 2 huge wings and circled above the young woman's head. Its entire body was crystal clear, like a beautiful ice sculpture, and cold air surged around its body. A sharp cry resounded through the sky. In the blink of an eye, as Mo Wushan and the young woman's voice fell, the 7 blood blades and the ice phoenix whizzed towards the fire dragon. The destructive aura was earth-shattering, and the land within a few miles was affected. The mountains and rivers collapsed, the rivers flowed backwards, and the fierce beasts roared in despair. It was like the scene before the end of the world. You insignificant ants, you dare to offend this emperor's divine might again and again. Today this emperor will swallow all of you alive. The fire dragon's anger overflowed. It completely ignored the blood blades and the ice phoenix. Its huge head swooped down and swallowed the brawny man into its stomach. Lu Yunfeng, Pei Sanshi, and the black-dressed woman originally wanted to help Mo Wushan, and the other 2 kill the fire dragon. But when they saw this scene, they were scared witless and ran away without looking back. A war master was actually swallowed alive just like that. It was too terrifying. Was there still a need to continue fighting? The brawny man was swallowed alive, and Lu Yunfeng and the other 2 actually escaped. This made Mo Wushan and the young woman extremely angry. One had to know. If it wasn't for saving these 3 people, the brawny man could have just left. Why would he have sacrificed his own life? But these 3 pieces of shit actually ran away just like that. It was simply unforgivable. But now it was obviously not the time to settle the score with these 3 people. The 2 of them stared at Bloodblade and Ice Phoenix. Whether or not they could kill the fire dragon depended on now. After the fire dragon swallowed the brawny man, it didn't dare to hesitate. It hurriedly moved its huge body, wanting to avoid the Bloodblades and Ice Phoenix. But it was still a step too late. Mo Wushan's 7 blood blades, in an instant all slashed towards its huge tail. Moreover, He had calculated in advance and slashed at the wound. Previously, the burly man's sword had caused a half-meter deep wound. Now that all 7 blood blades had landed, coupled with Mo Wuxian's battle strength, which was already stronger than the burly man, the fire Jiao dragon's huge tail was completely severed by the blood blades. Roar! The fire Jiao immediately howled miserably. That half of the giant tail fell, smashing a deep hole in the broken ground. Blood poured down like a waterfall, dyeing the void and the earth red. At the same time, the ice phoenix was like a meteor as it collided with the fire flood dragon's head. The ice phoenix instantly shattered, turning into ice and frost that filled the world. The fire flood dragon's head was also bleeding, and half of its body was sent flying. Its tail had been chopped off, and its head had been shattered. To it, this was undoubtedly one disaster after another. Now, don't let it escape. Mo Wuxian shouted. The young woman nodded. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and a snowflake appeared behind her. That snowflake was the size of a palm. It was completely white and flawless, like a peerless piece of precious jade that had been meticulously carved. At the same time, there was also a small sword behind Mo Wuxian's back that rose into the air. The small sword was only the length of a finger. It was completely blood-red, as if it had just been soaked in blood. A bloody light flashed, and a shocking murderous intent rushed out. Seeing this, Fatso asked in surprise, "Is this a fighting soul? If it's not a fighting soul, what else can it be?" Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes at him. However, these two people's fighting souls seemed to be very unusual. "Bastard, today is the day you die." Once the fighting souls appeared, Mo Wuxian and the young woman roared. The palm-sized snowflake and the small blood-red sword immediately turned into a flash of light. In the blink of an eye, they actually appeared in front of the fire flood dragon. What a fast speed! Qin Feiyong's pupils contracted. If it were him, even with the phantom steps, he did not have the confidence to dodge it. It seemed that the fire flood dragon had really reached the end of its road. However, to his surprise, the fire Deburum didn't dodge. That pair of eyes that were bigger than a millstone flashed with an intense murderous light. "Ants, you have completely infuriated this emperor. This emperor will not only swallow you alive today, but also kill all the humans in this mountain range." It roared towards the sky, its huge body towering in the sky. There was actually a dragon's aura that rushed out from its body, and this dragon's aura was very strong. It was as if a real dragon had appeared. Qin Feiyong and Fatso, who were far away, could not help but feel flustered. Impossible! The fire flood dragon has yet to transform into a dragon. It is impossible for it to have such a strong dragon's aura. Qin Feiyong muttered. There must be another mystery in this. It was as he had expected. He saw that a scale actually emerged from the back of the flood dragon. That scale was the size of a millstone. The entire body seemed to be cast from magma, spewing out flames. Fatso's eyes widened as he asked in surprise, "Boss, what is that?" "Dragon scale." Qin Feiyong paused after every word, his eyes shining brightly. "What? It's actually a dragon scale. Could it be that in this world, the real dragon is not a legend but a real existence?" Fatso was dumbfounded. "I don't know if there is a real dragon in this world. But this dragon scale is not a real dragon scale, it's its fighting soul," Qin Feiyong said. "Fighting soul?" Fatso was slightly stunned. "Dragon scale fighting soul, this guy is amazing." While the two were talking, the confrontation in the sky had already begun. As soon as the millstone-sized dragon scale appeared, it was placed in front of the fire dragon like a shield. Following closely, that snowflake and blood-colored sword suddenly blasted on the dragon scale. Clang! Immediately, sparks flew everywhere. The loud sound was deafening. The snowflake and blood-colored sword shattered on the spot. Cracks also appeared on the dragon scale from the impact. Obviously, the fire dragon's fighting soul was stronger. Ants accept this emperor's anger. The fire dragon's ferocious nature was completely exposed. The broken dragon scale cut through the sky, carrying an astonishing sharpness, and charged towards Mo Wuxian and Qin Feiyong. Their expressions changed. This fire dragon was too ridiculously strong. Up until now they had already used all their skills and there was really no other way. But if they gave up now, wouldn't the burly man's sacrifice be in vain? Wouldn't their previous efforts be in vain? But if they continued, they would most likely follow in the burly man's footsteps. After struggling for a moment, between their lives and the alchemy fire, they resolutely chose their lives. Roar! However, just as they were about to escape, the fire dragon suddenly wailed. Its eyes filled with pupils. And that dragon-scale fighting soul instantly disappeared without a trace. What's the situation? This sudden change not only stunned Mo Wuxian and Qin Feiyang, but also Qin Feiyang and Fatso. Why did she suddenly scream out of nowhere? But very soon, they understood the reason. The fire dragon that was constantly wailing suddenly opened its mouth wide, and a burly man wrapped in armor rushed out from inside. It's him. Seeing this person, Mo Wuxian and the young woman were immediately overjoyed. This person was none other than the burly man who was swallowed alive by the fire dragon. He didn't die? Fatso was dumbfounded and found it unbelievable. Qin Feiyang said, "Actually, this is nothing." Fatso's expression froze. "You were swallowed alive and still managed to escape. This is nothing. Back in Iron Bull Town, when I met Wolf King for the first time, I was chased by someone and jumped off a cliff, falling into a river. At that time, I was also swallowed alive by a water beast. Later on, the white-eyed wolf and I also walked out alive." Qin Feiyang said. "There's such a thing?" Fatso was stunned. "How did you guys do it?" Actually, being swallowed alive isn't scary. What's really scary is entering the stomach of a beast. The acid in the stomach of a beast can quickly dissolve a person's body. Therefore, as long as you don't enter the stomach, your life won't be in danger. At that time, the white-eyed wolf and I were swallowed alive by the water beast. The first thing I did was grab the flesh at the throat of the water beast and stabilize my body. Luckily, I was able to escape." Qin Feiyang said. "So that's how it is." Fatso suddenly realized. It seemed that the burly man and Qin Feiyang's situation were similar. Looking at the burly man again. After escaping, he didn't hide. Standing above the fire dragon, he sneered. "Beast, you didn't expect that I would be able to walk out of your body alive." Whoosh! Mo Wuxian and the young woman immediately rushed to meet up with the burly man. Seeing this, the fire dragon's pupils constricted as a trace of fear crept into his eyes. "What? Want to escape? But you're seriously injured now. Can you escape? Although the three of us are also seriously injured, we have the best quality pills. How can you fight with us?" The burly man's eyes were filled with ridicule. He took out a best quality healing pill and shook it in front of the fire dragon before throwing it into his mouth. At the same time, Mo Wuxian and the young woman also took a healing pill and a bone-replenishing pill respectively. The wounds on their bodies immediately healed. Even if you have the pills, you're just ants. Looking at the three of them, the fire dragon was still arrogant and his eyes were filled with disdain. Boom! After saying this, the dragon-scale fighting soul appeared again and rushed towards the three of them. Its terrifying aura shook the heavens and the earth. "Go all out and kill it," the burly man said. Mo Wuxian and the young woman nodded. Boom! The three fighting souls appeared at the same time. The burly man's fighting soul was actually a palm-sized mountain peak. It was yellow in color and at first glance, it looked like an ordinary stone. But its aura was extremely strong and it exuded a heavy aura. "Die!" The three of them roared. The blood-red sword, snowflakes and mountain peak all rushed towards the dragon scale. At this moment, the fire dragon, who was still aggressive, suddenly turned around and began to escape. Its speed was extremely fast and in the blink of an eye, it was hundreds of meters away. Damn it! Seeing this, Mo Wuxian and the other two were furious and were about to chase after it. But at this moment, their three fighting souls collided with the dragon scale fighting soul. Boom! Accompanied by an earth-shattering explosion, a destructive shockwave appeared and spread out in all directions. The three of them were the first to bear the brunt. Damn it! Don't force your way in. Retreat first. Mo Wuxian shouted and decisively retreated. This was because this wave of qi was enough to seriously injure them. Although they had taken the healing pill, their injuries had only recovered a little. If they were seriously injured by the qi wave, it would be equivalent to adding injuries to their injuries. At that time, they would most likely be killed by the fire dragon. Chapter 527. Damn it, damn it. It actually escaped. The brawny man was so angry that he stomped his feet. Mo Wuxian and the young woman also looked in the direction where the fire dragon disappeared with gloomy eyes. The young woman said, "We can't give up like this. Let's chase. Because if they don't chase now, they won't have a chance in the future." Mo Wuxian and the brawny man also knew this truth. Whoosh! Without hesitation, the three of them cut through the sky and rushed in the direction where the fire dragon escaped. What should we do? In the distance, Lu Yunfeng looked at Mo Wuxian and the other two and asked Pei Sanshi and the black-dressed woman. Nonsense, of course we have to chase. The black-dressed woman glared at him and quickly followed. Bootlicker. Lu Yunfeng sneered and looked at Pei Sanshi. We'd better not go. Just now, Yan Tianfeng was swallowed alive by the fire dragon. Our escape has already caused Mo Wuxian and Pan Wuyan's dissatisfaction. If we follow them now, they will definitely make things difficult for us. They might even try to kill us. So the most important thing now is not to chase after the fire dragon, but to leave the Spirit Cloud Mountain range and not give them the slightest chance to kill us. After pondering for a while, Pei Sanshi said. Lu Yunfeng nodded. With the character of Mo Wuxian and the other two, they might really do such a thing. Swish! The two of them opened the portal and left the Spirit Cloud Mountain range. Although the fourth-grade pill fire had a fatal temptation, if they lost their lives it would be useless even if they got it. But as long as they were alive, there would be opportunities in the future. In the distant void, there were still many people. They were basically 6-star and 5-star combat emperors. At this moment, they also opened the portal and chose to leave the Spirit Cloud Mountain range. Because the fire dragon was too strong, even the three great kings couldn't take it down. With their strength, running was simply sending themselves to death. Soon, there was no one in the sky. But suddenly, two figures soared into the sky. It was Qin Feiyong and Fatso. Fatso frowned and said, "Boss, why didn't you chase after it immediately?" Qin Feiyong said, "With our speed, we won't be able to catch up." Without a doubt, the fire dragon was definitely a 4-star combat ancestor. Although they all had auxiliary battle arts, the difference in their cultivations was too great. Even though the fire Jiao dragon was seriously injured and couldn't display its full speed, it was still not something they could compare to. If he chased after it immediately, not only would he not be able to catch up to the fire Jiao, he would also be discovered by Mo Wuxian and the other two. Moreover, even if he caught up with the fire Jiao, he might not be able to snatch the pill fire. Therefore, instead of doing something that he had no confidence in, it was better to be an Oriole with peace of mind. He pondered for a moment. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and pulled Wolf King out. "What is it? Can't handle it? I knew it. Without me, you guys wouldn't be able to do anything." Wolf King mocked the two of them as soon as he came out. His eyes were filled with ridicule. "Go if you have the ability." Fatso grumbled unhappily, still not convinced. If Brother Wolf had made a move, he would have gotten the elixir fire a long time ago. Unlike the two of you who dilly-dallied and achieved nothing. Wolf King was disdainful. Qin Feiyong's face suddenly darkened and he said angrily, "Will you die if you don't show off? Quickly use your special skills and track them." See. In the end I still have to do it." Wolf King smiled proudly and sniffed hard, saying, "Follow me closely, I won't wait for you." Whoosh! After saying that, the Wolf King directly used the void escape step, and like a bolt of lightning he rushed forward explosively. Qin Feiyong sighed helplessly and quickly chased after him with Fatso. Why did a wolf appear out of thin air? And its speed is so fast. There was a giant mountain in the distance. He Jiao stood on the top of the mountain, looking at Qin Feiyong, Fatso and Wolf King, his eyes full of surprise. Not only was his behavior strange, but he also had so many amazing means. Was this man still Ma San? Alas! A moment later, he let out a long sigh, opened a portal and left the Spirit Cloud Mountain. He was smarter than Lu Yunfeng and the other two. If Lu Yunfeng and the other two could think of it, he could naturally think of it too. If the fire dragon was killed here, he might still have a chance. Because once the fire dragon died, Qin Feiyong and Mo Wuxian would definitely fight, and he could take advantage of the chaos to fish in troubled waters. But now, the fire dragon, the three kings, Qin Feiyong and the others left one after another. With his speed, he wouldn't even have the chance to blow away the dust. If he continued to follow, it would only be a waste of time. So it was better to leave as soon as possible. After all, in this deep mountain, there were fierce beasts stronger than him everywhere. The slightest carelessness would cause him to lose his life. Above a giant mountain, a fiery red stream of light flashed past. It was the fire dragon. Damn human, how dare you hurt this emperor? When this emperor recovers, if I don't kill all of you, I swear I won't be a dragon. Its eyes flashed fiercely as it scanned the front. One could vaguely see a flame on the horizon ahead. As the distance got closer, the flame became more and more obvious. It was a lake. The lake was very big, covering an area of 5 to 6 miles. But the difference was that it wasn't water but magma. The crimson-red magma was boiling inside, illuminating half the sky. The scorching heat enveloped all directions, and the land within a few miles was like a big furnace, barren. The nearby mountains and rivers were also dark red and extremely hot. One could smell a very unpleasant smell from afar. Whoosh! Behind the fire dragon, Wushin and the other two chased closely. Moreover, their speed was almost the same as the fire dragon. It was obvious that they had all mastered high-grade auxiliary battle arts. Although high-grade auxiliary battle arts were rare in the 9 prefectures, it wasn't that they didn't exist. For example, Fatso's returning to one was obtained from the martial arts treasury in the inner palace. As for Wushin and the other two, they were all kings of the inner palace in the Yun prefecture. Wushin was the direct disciple of the palace master, so it wasn't surprising that he had mastered high-grade auxiliary battle arts. But when the three of them saw the magma lake, their expressions changed. Magma lake? What is it doing here? This magma lake seemed to have an incredible origin. The three of them were filled with fear. Not long later, the fire dragon arrived above the magma lake, turned around to look at Wushin and the other two, and sneered, "Lowly humans, if you have the ability, then follow me in." Finished. It swooped down and plunged into the magma lake, disappearing without a trace. Wushin and the other two quickly arrived at the magma lake. However, they did not approach the lake. Instead, they landed on a nearby mountain peak and looked down at the boiling lake with an extremely ugly expression. "What should we do?" the brawny man asked. "This is the territory of the fire bull. If we make a move here, I'm afraid it will be very disadvantageous to us," the young woman said in a deep voice. At the mention of the fire bull, the three of them felt exceptionally heavy. Previous chapter, next chapter, boom. But at this time, Wushin's aura suddenly erupted. The brawny man and the young woman both looked at him in surprise. "So what if there is a fire bull? It is only a war master, what are you afraid of?" Wushin laughed coldly. "Don't be rash. If it was only the fire bull, with our strength, we would not be afraid of it. But now, not only is there a fire bull here, there is also that damned fire dragon. If the two of them join hands, even if we can kill them, we will definitely have to sacrifice ourselves. Moreover, our injuries have not healed yet. If we fight with them now, the situation will be very disadvantageous to us." "That's right, even if you want to kill us, you have to wait until we recover from our injuries and recover to our peak state," the young woman and the brawny man hurriedly advised. "When we recover to our peak state, the fire dragon will also recover. At that time it will be even harder to deal with. When the fire bull comes out, I will restrain it. You guys go and deal with the fire dragon." Wushin was swift and decisive. He did as he said and pointed his index finger in the air. Boom! A blood-colored battle chi shot out, bringing with it an astonishing power as it blasted into the magma lake. Accompanied by a loud sound, the magma lake immediately set off huge waves. Moo! Following closely, an angry roar sounded. Whiz! A huge beast rushed out from the magma, its ferocious might shaking the world. In this place a strong wind suddenly rose and flames rushed into the sky. When Wushin and the other two saw the beast, their pupils could not help but shrink. The beast was incomparably tall, and its appearance was similar to a bull. However, its body was covered with fiery red hair, and its two bell-like eyes emitted a terrifying ferocious light. The fire bull glanced at the three of them and said in a muffled voice, "Lowly humans, you dare to offend my majesty. Do you want to die?" Wushin said. Hand over the fire dragon and we will leave immediately. Otherwise, we will not rest until we die today. Not rest until we die. Do you think I am afraid of you? The firebull's eyes were filled with disdain. It strode forward with its thick hooves and charged towards the three of them fiercely. Act according to the plan and end this quickly. Mo Wuxian's face darkened. He coldly shouted at the brawny man and the young woman and went up to meet it. Boom! In an instant, his body was surrounded by killing intent as if he was bathed in blood. At the same time, the brawny man and the young woman gritted their teeth and charged towards the magma lake. Courting death. The firebull roared, its voice like a bell. Immediately, a flame rushed out from its body, covering the sky and pouncing towards the two of them. Your opponent is me. Mo Wuxian took a step forward. Blood-colored battle chi surged crazily and pounced towards the flame. Boom! The two collided. Mo Wuxian was sent flying on the spot and spat out blood. On the other hand, the firebull's huge body stood proudly in the air and did not move at all. The gap between them was immediately revealed. Although Mo Wuxian was injured, it was undeniable that the firebull's strength was stronger than the fire dragon's. This was an extremely terrifying opponent. But because of this, the brawny man and the young woman successfully entered the magma lake. Although the magma had an extremely high temperature and could instantly burn living things into ashes, it was only limited to ordinary living things. To experts at the level of a war master, it was no longer a threat. You humans all deserve to die. Wait for me to kill them, then I will deal with you. The firebull looked at Mo Wuxian with a murderous gaze and charged towards the magma lake. With me here, don't even think about going anywhere. Mo Wuxian's expression was cold and the killing intent on his body was even stronger than before. Boom! He used an auxiliary technique and in the blink of an eye, he was below the firebull. The blood-colored battle chi in his chi-si surged out like a river of blood. 7 killing art slash. Following his low roar, 7 blood blades appeared and slashed towards the firebull with a shocking sharpness. Ant! Since you want to die, I will kill you first. The firebull charged and actually used its head to smash into the 7 blood blades. Boom! Immediately, the firebull's head was broken and bleeding. However, the 7 blood blades were forcibly shattered by it. Mo Wuxian's body trembled and fell towards the magma lake below. Blood kept spurting out of his mouth and his face was pale. Did you see that? This is my strength. You ant, you are delusional to think that you can shake my power. You are simply courting death. Die for this emperor. The firebull roared like thunder and its 4 iron hooves stomped towards Mo Wuxian's head. That terrifying aura made Mo Wuxian's hair stand. Swoosh. He hurriedly took a step forward, narrowly avoiding this calamity. But at the same time, the firebull raised its tail and with a smack, it slapped his face. Mo Wuxian was sent flying by the tail. His face was lacerated and blood flowed out. However, although he was in pain, Mo Wuxian did not scream. He did not even make a sound. But at this moment his eyes had completely changed. Within his pupils, a wave of blood quickly emerged, and his 2 eyeballs instantly turned blood red. It was like a pair of devil's eyes that were filled with cold blood light. It was extremely terrifying. Moreover, his snow-white hair was also quickly soaked in blood. Seeing this, the firebull could not help but be surprised. At the same time, in the distant void, a black figure broke through the air. It was the lady in the black dress. What's going on? Why did senior brother Mo suddenly become like this? Why haven't I seen him before? But when she noticed the change in Mo Wuxian, she suddenly stopped in the void and her face was filled with shock. And behind the lady in the black dress, there was a giant mountain. At the peak of the giant mountain, Qin Feiyong and Fatso stood side by side. Wolf King was lying on Qin Feiyong's shoulder, and looked at Mo Wuxian in surprise. The current Mo Wuxian, whether it was his aura or temperament, was completely different from the previous Mo Wuxian. Blood-red hair. Blood-red eyes. His blood aura surged to the sky. If the previous Mo Wuxian was like a god of death, then the current Mo Wuxian was a living god of death. Boom! Suddenly, Mo Wuxian stabilized his body and turned around to stare at the firebull. The blood that flowed out and the burning sensation on his face constantly reminded him that this was the greatest humiliation of his life, and it almost drove him crazy. Suddenly, he raised his head and roared angrily. His blood-red hair was like a river of blood floating behind him. Pain, I'm not afraid. Death, I'm not afraid. But hitting my face is trampling on my dignity, trampling on my character. Whether it's a human or a beast, I can't let them off. His killing intent was like a tide. He took a step across the sky and punched at the fire bull. Humph! Didn't you just change your appearance? Do you think you can scare me? The fire bull smiled disdainfully. Its huge body leaped high and its iron hooves stepped on Emo Wushen's fist. Boom! Accompanied by a loud bang, Emo Wushen was directly blasted away. His arm shattered and blood splashed in the sky. And why didn't his strength improve? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. He originally thought that the current Emo Wushen would be stronger than before, but now it seemed that there was no change. Could it be that this change was purely due to anger? But that wasn't the case. Emo Wushen, who was blasted away, stabilized his body again. However, he seemed to have calmed down and didn't charge around like before. He looked at the fire bull and said, "Actually, it's very simple to kill you." Simple? The fire bull was slightly taken aback and sneered. Is there something wrong with your head? With your little ability, you still dare to say such arrogant words? Emo Wushen didn't speak again. Boom! Chapter 528. That strand of killing intent soared into the sky, and 7 blood blades instantly appeared. Every blade was 1,000 feet long. They were like giant blood-red scythes that emitted an unparalleled ferocious aura. Qin Feiyang frowned. These 7 blood blades had indeed become a lot bigger, but the aura was no different from before. What kind of trick was this Emo Wushen playing? 7 killing art, 7 killing as one. But at this moment, as Emo Wushen spoke coldly, the 7 blood blades collided and merged together. Clang! The next moment, a blood blade that was more than 1,000 feet long appeared out of nowhere. It was like a blood moon, lying in the sky, releasing an aura that could destroy the world. The moment this blood blade appeared, whether it was Huanyo or the woman in black, their expressions changed. Even Qin Feiyang and Wolf King's pupils could not help but shrink, because the aura of this blood blade had obviously soared by a lot, and it was close to the critical point of a perfect battle art. Beast, pay the price for your previous actions. Emo Wushen roared into the sky, his blood-red hair dancing in the wind. With a wave of his hand, the blood blade trembled and slashed towards Huanyo. Do you think I'm stupid? Stand here and let you kill me? Huanyo sneered. His body was huge but extremely agile, and he calmly dodged. The blood blade brushed past him and slashed towards the magma lake below. Huanyo was about to mock him. However, before he could open his mouth, the blood blade turned in the air and swept towards him again. What's going on? Huanyo was shocked. 7 killing as one has the ability to lock onto the opponent. As long as you are locked onto by the aura of the blood blade, you can only resolve it head-on. Otherwise, no matter where you escape to, you will be chased to the end. Emo Wushen smiled coldly. He had full confidence in the lethality of this blood blade. Resolve it head-on? Huanyo's eyes shone fiercely when he heard this, and said, "Then let me see how strong your strongest attack is." Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, its enormous body began to swell with the wind. In the blink of an eye, a colossus that was hundreds of meters tall had appeared. It was like a lofty mountain that stood in the sky, and its ferocious might intimidated the surroundings. Damn, is this its true form? Fatso was dumbfounded. A very strong guy. Wolf King mumbled. It was very rare to hear these words come out of its mouth. Be destroyed, ant. The flaming bull let out a roar as its iron hooves stomped through the air. Its entire body was wrapped in flames, and it was like a resplendent meteor as it charged towards the blood blade. Rumble! The two collided. A loud explosion resounded, shaking the heavens and the earth. Moo! At the same time a roar of pain sounded. The blood blade tore through the fire bull's defense and pierced its head, causing blood to gush out. Huanyo started to panic. Boom! His battle chi surged out without reservation and blasted towards the blood blade. Crack! The blood blade immediately began to crumble. Human, you're going to die. Huanyo roared. and a horn that was 100 meters long emerged from its back. It was crimson red as if it was cast from magma, and it was curved. This was its fighting soul. Boom! The horn trembled violently, releasing a terrifying aura as it charged towards Emo Wuxian. "You're the one who's going to die today." Emo Wuxian was also enraged. The war soul's blood-red small sword soared into the sky from his back, and with a monstrous blood-red light, it slashed towards the bull's horns. Boom! The two fighting souls were evenly matched, and they were in a stalemate in the air. Interesting. If this continues, it will definitely end in a lose-lose situation. Wolf King smirked. Qin Feiyong said, "Emo Wuxian's strength is not simple. If he's in his peak state, Huanyo will definitely not be his opponent." Fatso frowned. "I'm curious. Why didn't Emo Wuxian use his full strength when dealing with Huanyo at the beginning? If he used his full strength at that time, Huanyo would definitely not be able to escape, and he would not be fighting with Huanyo now." Qin Feiyong said. "He should be guarding against Yan Tianfeng and Pan Wuyan." Although the three of them had reached an agreement, they were all secretly plotting against each other, so they had to be careful. 3 breaths passed. With a loud crack, the blood-red sword began to shatter, but the horn was still intact. But at the same time, the broken blood blade also shattered Huanyo's skull, and blood flowed like a waterfall. From this, it could be seen. In the battle between fighting souls, Huanyo had the upper hand. However, the lethality of the blood blade was obviously stronger than Huanyo's defense. But in comparison, Huanyo was in greater danger, because the blood blade had already threatened its life. And Emo Wuxian's fighting soul's blood-red sword, even if it was shattered, it would at most cause Emo Wuxian serious injuries, and would not threaten his life. Therefore, Huanyo was even more flustered. It even had the thought of compromising, but it was unwilling. As the emperor of this area, it was a great humiliation to surrender to a human. Crack! The blood blade went a few inches deeper, and was about to reach Huanyo's sea of consciousness. This time, Huanyo did not dare to hesitate. "Human, if we continue to fight like this, it will not benefit anyone. Why don't we stop at the same time? As for the fire dragon, I don't care anymore. You can do whatever you want," Huanyo said. "Dream on." Emo Wuxian's eyes were filled with killing intent. The burning wound on his face constantly reminded him that if he did not kill Huanyo, the humiliation would not disappear. "Human, don't bully others too much." Huanyo was furious. As a beast emperor, it had already put down its pride and took the initiative to compromise. What else did Emo Wuxian want? Emo Wuxian smiled coldly, and the blood blade's edge was oppressive, directly attacking Huanyo's sea of consciousness. "Since you want to fight to the death, then let's die together." Feeling the threat of death, Huanyo was completely enraged. The horn suddenly burst into flames like a dazzling sun, and quickly shattered the blood-red sword, crazily attacking Emo Wuxian. At the same time, the blood blade also tore apart the last layer of flesh, and attacked Huanyo's sea of consciousness. One man and one beast were competing in speed. Whoever was faster would win. What will the result be? Qin Feiyong muttered. "It's best to die together." Fatso laughed. "Whether or not we will die together, I don't know. But what's certain is that even if one side can survive, they won't be able to make any waves." Wolf King laughed sinisterly. Because until now, whether it was Emo Wuxian or Huanyo, both of them were greatly injured. In the blink of an eye, just as the horn was about to hit Emo Wuxian, Huanyo suddenly howled, filled with endless pain and despair. The next moment, the horn disappeared into thin air. "Die!" At this moment, Emo Wuxian roared, taking advantage of the victory to pursue. The broken blood blade bloomed with a dazzling blood light, illuminating half the sky. Gotcha! Then it actually cut Huanyo's huge body into 2 halves. Blood poured down like a waterfall, dyeing the sky red. Obviously, Emo Wuxian's divine skill was better. After killing Huanyo, the blood blade also reached its limit and shattered. At the same time, Emo Wuxian's body swayed, and he chased down powerlessly. Seeing this, the black-dressed woman's face suddenly changed. She hurriedly flew over, hugged Emo Wuxian, and took out a healing pill and fed it to Emo Wuxian. And the 2 halves of Huanyo's body fell into the magma lake, and soon burned to ashes. Wolf King said, "Little Qinzi, it's time to make a move, right?" Fatso rolled his eyes and said, "What's the hurry? Can't you see that Huanyo hasn't appeared yet?" "Indeed, we can't be too hasty," Qin Feiyang said. Although Mo Wuxian was not a worry now, and Yen Tianfeng and Pan Wuyan were seriously injured, but after all, he did not know much about the three of them. What if they were hiding some amazing means? Uncle Yuan once warned him that no matter what, he could not let his guard down, and he had always remembered it in his heart. Above the magma lake, Mo Wuxian's blood-red hair and eyes had returned to normal. After he recovered, he looked at the black-dressed woman and asked, "You saw it all?" The black-dressed woman nodded. Mo Wuxian pondered for a while and said, "Keep it a secret for me." "Okay." The black-dressed woman responded, but she looked like she wanted to say something. "What do you want to ask?" Mo Wuxian said. The black-dressed woman said, "Senior brother Mo, if I'm not wrong, the power of your 7 kills in one seems to have surpassed the category of a superior battle art?" "You're right. The power of the 7 kills in one is infinitely close to a perfect battle art. And the 7 kills art is also a top-tier battle art. Master gave it to me back then, but in order to guard against Yen Tianfeng and Pan Wuyan, I have never used it," Mo Wuxian said. The black-dressed woman came to a realization and nodded. "Senior brother Mo, don't worry, I will keep it a secret." Mo Wuxian smiled, looked down at the magma lake below, and swallowed another supreme healing pill. "When they come out, don't say that I'm seriously injured. Otherwise, when they know, they might take the opportunity to kill me. If they really do that, you will also die. Because in this way there will be no evidence. Even if Master knows about my death and wants to investigate, there will be no way to do so." Mo Wuxian looked at the black-dressed woman and said, "I understand." The black-dressed woman said, "These people really do one thing in front of others and another behind others' backs." Fatso sneered. "Isn't it the same in the spiritual state inner palace? As long as there are people, there will definitely be scheming. Especially those who are stronger. Their ambitions and desires will be greater." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. He had long been used to such things. Boom! Splash! All of a sudden, in the eastern region of the magma lake, there was a loud bang followed by huge waves. At the same time, there was a strong battle fluctuation. Everyone knew that Yen Tianfeng and Pan Wuyan were fighting with the fire dragon under the magma lake. The black-dressed woman said worriedly, "Will they fail?" "They won't. If the fire dragon is not injured, they will definitely not be a match for it. But now, the fire dragon is just an arrow at the end of its flight." Mo Wuxian's eyes lit up. He was very confident in Yen Tianfeng and Pan Wuyan. The only thing he was worried about now was whether the two of them would see his current situation after killing the fire dragon. The battle at the bottom of the lake did not last long. Whoosh! Yen Tianfeng and Pan Wuyan rushed out of the magma lake one after another. And in Yen Tianfeng's palm there was a cluster of flames. It was the size of a palm and exuded an extremely high temperature. Seeing the flames, Mo Wuxian's eyes lit up immediately. But then he covered it up. He forced himself to be calm and acted as if nothing had happened. As soon as Yen Tianfeng and Pan Wuyan appeared and saw that the fire dragon was gone, they were stunned. Whoosh! The two of them flew to Mo Wuxian and asked doubtfully, "Where's the fire dragon?" Mo Wuxian said, "I killed it." "What? You can kill it?" The two of them stared at Mo Wuxian in shock. One had to know. The fire dragon was at its peak state, but Mo Wuxian was seriously injured. Originally, they thought that even if Mo Wuxian could restrain the fire dragon, it would be difficult to do so. However, they did not expect that Mo Wuxian would actually kill it. How did he do it? Mo Wuxian pointed at the woman in the black dress and said indifferently, "Actually, this is all thanks to her. She sneaked an attack on the fire dragon at the critical moment, giving me the opportunity to kill the fire dragon in one blow." "Why did you take so long to kill the fire dragon?" Mo Wuxian added. Adding this sentence was actually to change the topic. Her. Yen Tianfeng and Pan Wuyan looked at the woman in the black dress suspiciously. A mere 8-star war emperor. Even if it was a sneak attack, it didn't seem to be able to cause any fatal damage to the fire dragon. However, this seemed to be the only explanation. With that thought, the two of them did not think too much about it. Yen Tianfeng said helplessly, "There's no other way. The magma lake is too big. It hid here and there with us. It was not easy to catch it. Here you go. Finished. Yin Tianfeng handed the pill fire to Mo Wuxian. Looks like we haven't been discovered. Mo Wuxian's eyes flashed and he was about to reach out to take the pill fire. Mo Wuxian is pretending to be fine now. In fact, his Yuan Qi has been greatly injured in the battle with the fire dragon. But at this moment, a playful voice suddenly sounded from below. It was Wolf King's voice. At this moment, Qin Feiyang, Fatso, and Wolf King had already left the mountain peak and were hiding behind a rock on the shore of the magma lake. Who is it? Damn it! Mo Wuxian and the woman in the black dresses' faces darkened. Yin Tianfeng and Pan Wuyan's pupils constricted as a trace of suspicion crept up in their hearts. Mo Wuxian's Yuan Qi was greatly injured? Didn't that mean that he no longer had the strength to fight? Wasn't this a good opportunity to kill him? Immediately, a trace of dense killing intent flashed past their eyes. But at this moment, Mo Wuxian's right hand shot out and grabbed the pill fire. He turned around and was about to escape. This action undoubtedly proved that Mo Wuxian had indeed suffered a serious injury. Mo Wuxian, today is the day you die. Seeing this, Yin Tianfeng and Pan Wuyan's killing intent rose and they attacked without hesitation. Yin Tianfeng chased after him with a step. Battle Qi surged on his fist as he punched towards Mo Wuxian's back. At the same time, Pan Wuyan also decisively attacked the woman in the black dress. Even though Pan Wuyan's injuries were severe, the woman in the black dress was after all an 8-star combat emperor. The gap between them was too big. Without any suspense, she was killed by a palm strike. Her body fell into the magma lake and turned into ashes in a few blinks of an eye. Not even her bones were left. Yin Tianfeng, Pan Wuyan, do you want to die? Mo Wuxian roared. He wasn't the woman in the black dress. He couldn't just sit there and wait for death. He turned around and mobilized his remaining battle qi and strength to punch Yin Tianfeng. With a blood-curdling scream, Mo Wuxian was sent flying. He spat out blood and his face was pale. The pill fire also flew out of his hand and shot downwards. Pan Wuyan, quickly go and get the pill fire. Don't let the person in the dark take it away. I'll go and kill Mo Wuxian. Yin Tianfeng roared and madly rushed towards Mo Wuxian. His body was filled with killing intent and his face revealed a cruel smile. Pan Wuyan also swooped down towards the pill fire. Her eyes were also filled with a bone-piercing killing intent. As long as Mo Wuxian was dead, the inner palace would belong to her and Yin Tianfeng from then on. Moreover, she might even have the chance to replace Mo Wuxian and become the palace master's personal disciple. However, at this moment, a black figure shot out from the lake below like a bolt of lightning and grabbed the elixir fire before Pan Wuyan could. Pan Wuyan was stunned and instantly locked onto the black figure. She suddenly said in surprise, "Ma-san, why are you here?" Qin Feiyang glanced at the pill fire excitedly. He raised his head and looked at Pan Wuyan. He smiled faintly and said, "As a qualified Oriole, first of all you must learn to endure. Secondly, you must learn to create opportunities and grasp them well." He had been holding himself back all this time, waiting for this moment. Wolf King's reminder to Yin Tianfeng. And Yin Tianfeng was also deliberately instigated. And all of this was done quite well, allowing him to obtain the alchemy fire without any effort. Similarly, these words were also mocking Pan Wuyan and Yin Tianfeng. If they had endured and not fallen out with Mo Wuxian, then he wouldn't have had this opportunity. Although he would definitely be able to get the pill fire in the end, it definitely wouldn't be so easy. Chapter 529. Oriole. Pan Wuyan stared at Qin Feiyang as if she had turned into an iceberg. Her entire body was filled with bone-chilling cold. Quickly kill him and take back the elixir fire. Yin Tianfeng shouted. "Ma-san, help me. I guarantee that you will enjoy endless glory and wealth for the rest of your life. You will even have the chance to enter the capital with me." At the same time, Mo Wuxian also asked Qin Feiyang for help and offered very tempting conditions. "You're courting death." Yin Tianfeng was furious. His eyes were filled with ferocity as he slammed his palm on Mo Wuxian's chest. Mo Wuxian immediately screamed as his chest caved in. Like a meteorite, he shot towards the mountain below. Ma-san, as long as you are willing to help me, the matter of you killing my brother will be written off. Not only that, I will also owe you a favor. I will repay you double in the future. Mo Wuxian roared. Obviously, Yin Tianfeng and Pan Wuyan were determined to kill him. If there were other people here, he would definitely not ask Qin Feiyang for help, because he also hated Qin Feiyang. But now, he had no choice but to put down his pride to save his life. Double in the future? Hearing Mo Wuxian's words, Qin Feiyang shook his head and sneered. Although he had not known Mo Wuxian for long, he could tell that he was a vengeful person. He was sure that once Mo Wuxian was free and recovered from his injuries, he would come to find trouble with him immediately. If he really helped him now, it would be tantamount to nurturing a tiger. He would not be so stupid. Boom! With a loud sound, Mo Wuxian smashed into the ground and a deep pit appeared. Mo Wuxian was lying inside on the verge of death, unable to move at all. Yin Tianfeng turned into a ray of light and flew towards the deep pit. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Swoosh! Qin Feiyang also retracted his gaze and looked at Pan Wuyan. He smiled faintly and said, "How about we talk?" Talk? Pan Wuyan looked at Qin Feiyang as if looking at an idiot and said, "What right do you have to talk to me? However, if you are willing to give me the alchemy fire, I can consider talking with you." Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "You can't be so stubborn. Otherwise you might be overturned." Turn the tables? Are you saying that you can turn the tables? Or are you saying that Mo Wuxian can make a comeback? How laughably naive. Let me tell you, both of you will die today. Pan Wuyan's eyes were brimming with killing intent. A terrifying pressure rushed towards Qin Feiyang. She said disdainfully, "I don't even need to do anything to kill a piece of trash like you. My pressure is enough to destroy you 1,000 times over." Boom! The pressure enveloped Qin Feiyang, and he was immediately imprisoned. Die! Pan Wuyan let out a cold shout, and the pressure immediately pressed down on Qin Feiyang from all directions. I am now an 8-star combat emperor. What can the pressure of a mere 1-star battle ancestor do to me? Qin Feiyang mumbled. He suddenly looked up at the sky and roared, "Break for me!" Boom! Immediately, he broke free from the shackles of the pressure, turned around in the air, and rushed towards the lake below. At the same time, Fatso also walked out from behind the stone and opened a portal. Fatso had been hiding there the entire time, in order to help Qin Feiyang. As for Wolf King, before Qin Feiyang made his move, he had already sent it to the castle. Because Qin Feiyang had no intention of fighting to the death with Mo Wuxian and the other two. Therefore, if he let Wolf King continue to stay outside, it would be a waste of time. How is this possible? At the same time, seeing that her pressure had been broken by Qin Feiyang, Pan Wuyan's face was filled with disbelief. Could it be that this guy was also a war master? But there was no time to think. Because she had also seen Fatso in the portal. She knew that the two of them were planning to escape with the pill fire. If the pill fire was taken away just like that, wouldn't everything they had done during this period of time be in vain? She would absolutely not allow such a thing to happen. Zhonglu Ma-san, if you know what's good for you, give me the pill fire immediately. Otherwise, even if I return to the inner hall, I will not let you off. With a cold shout, the frost vortex above her head appeared again, and an ice elephant roared out, carrying a monstrous ferocious aura as it rushed towards the portal. Treasures belong to those who are capable. Do you have the ability? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, turned around and slapped the air. The return formula reappeared. A dazzling golden light burst out from his palm, turning into a rolling torrent that crashed into the ice elephant. Boom! Accompanied by a loud noise, Qin Feiyang's entire arm shattered on the spot, and blood spurted out from his mouth, his face pale. He was seriously injured in one blow. War masters are indeed powerful. But Qin Feiyang grinned at Pan Wuyan, and with the help of this impact, quickly landed in front of the portal. Boss, are you okay? Fatso looked at him worriedly. I won't die. Qin Feiyang shook his head, looked up at Pan Wuyan and Yin Tianfeng, and waved, both of you, see you next time. With that, he entered the portal without looking back. Hurry up and kill Mo Wuxian. Or else he When we return to the inner hall, you will be killed by Mo Wushan before you can kill us. Fatty also laughed sinisterly at the two of them, then turned around and left. In the blink of an eye, the portal disappeared. Damn it! Seeing this, Yan Tianfeng was instantly enraged, and shouted, Pan Wuyan, you can't even deal with two pieces of trash. What's the use of you? If you have the ability, go ahead. Pan Wuyan was also burning with anger. Humph! If it were him, they would not be able to escape. However, they are not a concern for now. Let's deal with Mo Wushan first, and then we will deal with them when we return to the inner hall. Yan Tianfeng snorted. Mo Wushan was the biggest threat. If he did not die now, there would be endless trouble in the future. Whoosh! Strong murderous intent appeared in their eyes, and they rushed towards Mo Wushan at the same time. Mo Wushan did not escape. As he had been injured repeatedly, he no longer had the strength to escape. His body was covered in blood, and he struggled to get up. Looking at Yan Tianfeng, he said gloomily, I have always treated you well, but you treat me like this. Do you still have a conscience? Treated us well? Are you joking? Go and ask everyone who doesn't know that you are just using us. Pan Wuyan sneered. Cut the crap, kill him quickly. Yan Tianfeng was not only a ruthless person, but also a very cautious person. To prevent any accidents from happening, he immediately killed. However, just as Mo Wushan was about to die, he suddenly disappeared without a trace. What happened? Yan Tianfeng and Yan Tianfeng's eyes widened in anger, and they looked around, their faces extremely gloomy. At the same time, in the sky above a forest, Qin Feiyong and Fatso appeared out of thin air. Boss, are you really okay? Looking at Qin Feiyong, whose arm was shattered, Fatso was very worried. It's okay. Qin Feiyong smiled. He took out a regeneration pill and a healing pill and swallowed them. Then he entered the castle. As soon as the alchemy fire appeared, the nether demonic flame automatically recovered and quickly swallowed the alchemy fire. Its aura skyrocketed again. Qin Feiyong's eyes lit up. With another Tier 4 alchemy fire, the nether demonic flame could be promoted to Tier 5 alchemy fire. At that time, he could only refine an elixir with 4 alchemy patterns. Fatso asked, Boss, where are we going to get alchemy fire now? Yunzhou Inner Hall. Qin Feiyong said without hesitation. What? Fatso's expression froze. Lin Yi opened her eyes and frowned. Brother Feiyong, there are many powerhouses in the spiritual state's inner hall. Yunzhou must be the same. Aren't you taking a risk? There are still 4 months before the Battle of 9 States. I don't have time to waste. I must speed up. Right now, only the alchemy fire in Yunzhou Inner Hall is the fastest shortcut. Qin Feiyong said. Wolf King smiled and said, Brother supports you. Can you not add to the trouble? Lin Yi looked at it helplessly. Am I adding to the trouble? I'm just telling the truth. If I didn't come to Yunzhou, it would be a different story. But since I'm already here, I naturally can't let go of every opportunity. What's more, it's just an inner hall. What are you afraid of? Wolf King was disdainful. Isn't it just an inner hall? Fatso and others were speechless. Perhaps only this fearless ruffian wolf would dare to say such arrogant words. Well, I have made up my mind. Don't worry about it. Just focus on cultivation. Fatso, let's go. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and appeared above the jungle with Fatso. They glanced below. In the distance, there was a battle fluctuation. The two crossed the sky like lightning and stopped over a mountain ridge. They looked down and saw a young man in black fighting with a fierce beast. Qin Feiyong pointed his finger in the air. His battle aura emerged and turned into a fiery red arrow. It instantly penetrated the head of the fierce beast. The young man in black was taken aback. He looked up at Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi, and his expression changed on the spot. He bowed and said, Greetings, 3rd Senior Brother Ma, 6th Senior Brother Zhang. The various deeds of the two in the mountain range had long been known to everyone. Now in the eyes of the inner hall, Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi were the most untouchable existences except for the 3 kings. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, The alchemy fire has appeared, and the experiential learning should be over. Why don't you return to the inner hall with us? Together? The young man in black was stunned for a while before he came back to his senses. He hurriedly nodded and said, Okay. It's my fortune to be able to travel with you too. Qin Feiyong was a little stunned. Wasn't this too exaggerated? He asked, do you have a portal on you? Yes. The young man in black nodded and asked instinctively, don't you have one? I've used it up. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, so that's why you want to travel with me. The young man in black mumbled, but he was not dissatisfied at all. Instead, he felt honored. Whoosh! The young man in black flew to Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi, took out a portal and quickly opened it. Qin Feiyong and Lin Yi looked at each other and walked in one after another. In fact, it was not that there was no portal, but that they did not know the coordinates of the inner hall. That was why they found this person. Soon, the three of them landed in the sky above a plain. The plain was extremely vast, with a radius of a few miles. There were no trees, but it was full of green weeds, showing a lively scene. Below, there were many young men and women gathered, and their strength was above the War Emperor realm. However, all of them were disheveled and covered in blood. On the other side of the plain there was a narrow entrance, and inside the entrance was an endless mountain range. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.